right, what is going on, everybody? The Xbox 2 podcast is now live. Hopefully everybody is having an incredible Friday. We are here. I am one of your hosts, Randall Thor19, the man with the million. And with me, as usual, is my co-host who just dropped an article on Windows Central that I didn't get to read yet, but I'm sure he'll talk about on the show. The managing editor of Windows Central, my buddy and your buddy, Jez Corden. What is going on?
Hey, pal. Yep, it's certainly been a week. Interesting week. I just banged my head on the microphone. Sorry about that, everyone who's listening. But yeah, we made it through another Friday.
Another Friday, another Xbox 2, right?
Another Friday in paradise, indeed. And we're all here rocking out with the peeps in the chat. Got everything set up and ready to go, and gonna talk some Xbox news, talk some games. Been playing quite a few games this week, actually. Talk about now that the embargoes have lifted, can actually talk about them. But yeah, have you had a good week, Mr. Rand?
Yeah,
Rand Althor 19.
It's been a week. It's also been a great start to the year, gaming wise. That's for sure. A lot of games to be played. A lot of like. I'm trying to think so far of this gen. Like, this has definitely been the year so far of quality content coming fast, right? Hi-Fi Rush, Hogwarts Legacy, Dead Space. Of course, that's just in the Xbox side. I know Switch owners got to play a new Fire Emblem game, I believe. And then, this week you got Wild Hearts. There's a new Yakuza game out as well, like Ishin, I believe. That seems to be reviewing pretty well. Yep. PSVR 2's coming out next week, and it's the hardware is getting some pretty stellar reviews. Monday's Atomic Heart, which I don't know if that's going to be any good. Seems like maybe it will be. And then February's loaded with a bunch of games in March and April and May and June. Like, man, it's definitely starting off right, and that's exactly what you love to see. Video games that are great. And I don't know, man. I'm just I haven't been on the Xbox the last couple days, mainly because I beat Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm sort of in that mode of, okay, what am I playing next? And I feel like my next game is going to be Atomic Heart, but I didn't want to start anything before then, so I'm kind of just like, all right, hurry up Monday and get here so I can start playing Atomic Heart, because I finished Hogwarts, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, how you doing, man? How's your week been?
Yeah, same old. Just working. In fact, there's a lot of stuff going on that I can't talk about at the minute.
Really?
But
a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, interesting stuff. You might hear some of it next week.
Really?
Games been playing, embargoes flying around, different companies, that kind of stuff. So there's always stuff in the pipeline, but I'm not going to think about any of that right now. Just going to chill and worry about the stress of it a little bit later. And, God, I really need a personal assistant.
You do?
Do you want a job, Rand? Do you want to be a personal assistant?
I'm your personal assistant? What would be? What would I have to do?
Organizing what I got to do today. Organizing my meetings.
When I think of what Jez Corden does from day to day, I just usually think you just wake up and start drinking, and then maybe you write an article, and that's about it. And then you go play some World of Warcraft, and that's your day, isn't it? Isn't that? Do I have it down right, chat?
I mean,
isn't that what Jez's day usually is? Does something revolve around?
Yeah, not far off.
Not far off. It's like, well, I'm waking up. It's 10 a.m. I'm gonna put some brandy in this little drink, and let me go write an article that takes me 10 minutes about something Xbox related, and about how Jim Ryan took out the private jet again to fly to Seattle, and and then I'm gonna go play World of Warcraft for the rest of the day, right?
Xbox fans became flight trackers this week.
Yeah, I definitely have stuff to say about that, because that headline is just, it is not Xbox fans, Eurogamer.
No, it's not.
I feel
False
like
patterns is not an Xbox fan.
Exactly. This kind of just leads to this, it demonizes a group, because not only that, it's Xbox fans, meaning plural, meaning a whole bunch of them, like they're looking in the skies, looking for where Flying Lion, Jim Ryan, Saving Private Ryan, whatever we're used to calling them on the show. Like, oh man, they're tracking Sony's plane. Look how big of losers they are. They're just gigantic freaking losers who want this deal to go through because, Microsoft's monopoly. Also on the same sort of, what would a Game Pass controlled ecosystem landscape look like? Could that be monopolistic? It's like, what is going on this week? I swear to God, I don't know, man. It's crazy. We'll definitely be talking about all this stuff. But we have to get through some housekeeping, as you guys know. Everybody in the Patreon, they voted for Wild Hearts gameplay. So finally, we got some Jez footage here of Wild Hearts. Looks like this is the beginning of the game. I know because you told me you're about 50 hours in, and I was like, oh, let me see some high-level play from Jez. But I certainly didn't get that here. No high-level play at all, just the beginning.
What are you talking about?
No
my brother. I asked my brother to record this.
Oh, okay.
And he said that he went back to the start because he didn't want to give people in the chat spoilers. I thought that was very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful of your brother, indeed. So enjoy the Wild Hearts gameplay. We'll talk about that later. But Jez, we have a returning sponsor for the show. Yes.
Yes, we do. And I'm going to do a quick ad read for this. We have a returning sponsor, and it is for all those health-conscious people out there, of which I'm trying to be one, but not having much luck right now. But if you are in North America, you might be interested in this great deal from our sponsor this week, Factor Meals. So yeah, looking to cut back on takeout? Get Factor instead. Not only is Factor cheaper than takeout, but meals are ready quicker than restaurant delivery in just 2 minutes. No matter what your lifestyle is, Factor has the meals to help you live it to the fullest with keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and protein plus meals on the menu each week. Prepared by professional chefs and approved by dietitians, each meal has all the ingredients you need to feel satisfied all day long. Head to factormeals.com/Xbox260, that's XBOXTWO60, and use code Xbox260 to get 60% off your first box. That's code Xbox260 at factormeals.com/Xbox260 to get 60% off your first box. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, and start saving time, eating well, and living your best life ever. The American way, as Supernova says.
The American way.
So yes, Factor Meals, you've used Factor Meals, have you not, Rand?
I've been using Factor Meals. The thing about Factor Meals is that the food comes already prepared. So all you got to do, they ship a big box to you, right? Everything's packed in with dry ice, and you have your meals. You can order, usually get like 6 for 2 people, or just there's a bunch of different amounts you can order, and you get 60% off for your first box. And you choose the sort of plan that you want. I chose like calorie conscious, right? Calorie smart, because I'm on a diet. And I'm not really the cooking type of person. I just like to pop something in the microwave and be done with it. And that's what this is. So everything comes in prepackaged containers. You put them in the freezer, and when you're ready to have something to eat, you pop it in the microwave, and 4 minutes later, you're actually eating some quality food. It's I know a lot of people look at it as like, oh, it's frozen, which it is, but it definitely is prepared, and then they ship it to you completely frozen. So it's actually like pretty gourmet for the most part for what you're getting, especially compared to other products. Like you would go and go to the grocery store and get like the TV meals and the frozen TV meals in the aisle, like from different places. It definitely is way better than that. So it's been helping me, keep on my weight loss journey. So thank you to Factor Meals for sponsoring this episode, and make sure you guys click on the link in the description or go to factormeals.com/Xbox260 and use the code Xbox260 to get 60% off if you want to. So we also have the incredible people over at Patreon supporting the show. You can sign up at patreon.com/XB2, We do have an Xbox 2+1 coming later in the month. Still working on locking down a guest, but it should be pretty cool. We got some shout outs there. We have Chris Pernice, Tharsman, Hey Blinken, The Bearded Tate, Sleets, Army Dude 52C, Mr. Butter Jeans, William Schumacher, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Tyler, Gunstar 75, Moronic Donkey 99, C Money, Mario Kart Madman on YouTube, Makazilla, Haters Will Be Haters, Randall Thor 19, me, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Jack Mickoff, Katriox, Ricky Fallon, Bright Tundra, Jasper Shapp, Joseph Campbell, Sub the Jez's Only Beans, okay, Mr. Joanna Dark, Justin Duell, Frank Marino, Probo King, Justin Miller, Asa T, and Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Justin Sego, Andrew Courtney, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropey, Prof JJJ, 3 J's, Butterball 8, Ghostface Killer, Wolfgang KPZ, and Ralph Wiggum. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon. And the Patreon producer this week is Achievement. In the description is a link to his Twitter profile. You guys can follow him there if you so desire. I know I'm using a different picture than the one he currently has, but I didn't have that picture. Either way, he's a great dude. So make sure you give him a follow on Twitter if you want to. So yeah, that's the housekeeping all finished, Jez. So thank you to Factor Meals, and thank you to all the amazing patrons for supporting what we do here. And moving on from that, Jez, what do we want to talk about? Let's talk about. Well, yeah, we got some super chat. I'll get to them in a minute, but tell us about Wild Hearts since it came out this week.
Yeah, so I suppose if we're quickly running through what we've been playing this week, I've been playing Wild Hearts, and the game seems to have some controversy attached to it.
Because it doesn't run well, does it? At least in later parts of the game.
It's interesting, right? So for those who don't know, Wild Hearts is the game up on screen right now. It's a Monster Hunter clone. I mean, through and through, it's a Monster Hunter clone. Plays like Monster Hunter. It has oversized weapons like Monster Hunter. Has crazy bosses like Monster Hunter. It's literally Monster Hunter. The game goes well out of its way to avoid saying the word monster. This is really funny. So it's kind of like The Last of Us goes out of its way to say zombies, right? It's like yeah, okay, just call them monsters, man. But anyway, the game's amazing. I've put 50 hours into it this week. It's Monster Hunter, and it plays like Monster Hunter. And unlike a lot of these sort of shallow Monster Hunter clones that have come out over the years, this one actually feels great to play. It's super tight. The weapons are really satisfying and interesting. That's the Monster Hunter gameplay loop that I really like. But it strips out a lot of the I don't know what you call it. Some of the chores that I would associate with Monster Hunter, like in Monster Hunter Rise, like you don't have to go. I mean, kind of. There's still like farming mats and stuff like that, but they make it easy for you because the game has like these building mechanics, and you can like set up buildings which will farm the mats for you. So there's this whole like progression layer where it's like I'm learning how to build more things, while also getting more armor, while also getting better weapons. So it's like, it's really cool, and it has like all these unique hooks that Monster Hunter doesn't have. Like each Monster Hunter game has its little gimmick, but this like the gimmick that this game has, which is the Fortnite building stuff, it's really deep and it works really well in the game. Like you can spawn crates and springboards mid combo, and you can get iframes off them, for example. So you might spawn a springboard in the middle of an attack, which gives you iframes to dodge a monster's attack, and then you weave in your next attack. So it just feels really good, and it works really well, So I'm having a blast with it, and also the online systems work really well, way better than Monster Hunter. Like in Monster Hunter, it really has you jumping through all these hoops to get an online game going. But this is just like you press a button, or you can just join through the Xbox party menu, and that's it. It works great. But the big controversy around the game is that it was rushed out the door by EA, like a bunch of other games they've released in the past, and it's not finished. So the first half of the game is quite well optimized, but the second half of the game, some of the later maps are clearly just not optimized. I think some of the visual effects they've got in there are just not optimized. They're stealing CPU, they're stealing RAM or something. I don't know. But it's like sometimes the game slows down in a way that it's almost like slow motion, man. It's like slow motion. It's not even like a frame rate issue. The whole game goes into slow motion, and obviously a game that has weapon combos that rely on specific timing, that's a big problem. Because if I've committed to muscle memory a specific combo that has specific timing, and then my whole game's going into slow motion mode, it can really screw you up. So it becomes frustrating in that instance. And that's on the Xbox Series X. On the Xbox Series S, the game is ugly as hell. It looks like, I don't know, you're trying to run Cyberpunk on a Super Nintendo. It's pixelated. There's a weather effect. The whole screen looks blurry. It's horrible. It's truly awful on the Series S. Like, I feel bad for anyone trying to play this on the Series S. It's really bad. And also, like on PC, supposedly it's really bad too. I haven't tested the PC version, but like, if you watch Skill Up's review on YouTube, just really poorly optimized on PC. So they've said they're going to do patches next week that'll improve some of this stuff. They've identified a memory leak, and they've identified some other issues with it. So they are going to look at optimizing the game. Yeah, but it's really fun. And I suppose, like, if you don't fancy paying full whack for it, it'll probably be on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate in 6 months because of EA Play, right? That's usually how it works, right, Rand?
Usually a year, I think.
A year? Yeah.
Usually it's about a year. Well, it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit shorter for the sports games, but a little bit longer for the like the
core games.
The core games, yeah. So I would look for it probably a year from now, so like February.
Well, I suppose like if the game does really badly because of the performance issues, I suppose like they might put it in there a little bit sooner, maybe. I don't know, but I expect it will get a price drop even still. I mean, it's like yeah, like Elijah Vasquez says, I heard someone say the rain looks like a GTA remake. Yeah, the rain looks really strange. It's like it's super pixelated. It's like they've tried. I think they've tried to be clever, right? And they've tried to put like some motion blurring on the individual drops of rain or something. And I kind of appreciate what they've tried to do, but it just looks horrible. It looks like you're in a real storm where you've got water in your eyes and you can't see anything. It's kind of like, yeah, this isn't the kind of realism I want out of my storm, Wild Hearts. But yeah, I don't know. I still love the game, even though it's a bit of a mess, and I've gotten a lot out of it. Like I said, I put about 50 hours into it already. And yeah, that's Wild Hearts for you.
50 hours. Jeez.
Yeah, 50 hours. Yeah, I played it a lot, man. I played it a lot. But if you're not into Monster Hunter, this probably isn't going to change your mind, really.
So, like someone like me, I've never really played a Monster Hunter game. And I don't even know if I'd like a Monster Hunter game. And so it's like I see this and I do like the look of it, but it's just like, is this something I don't know. There's honestly too many games. If Atomic Heart wasn't coming out next week, I probably would play Wild Hearts to try it out.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many people are in my position where like they haven't really played a hunting game, and they're just like, is this worth checking out?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, man. Like, it's hard to just, because a bunch of people have said that to me and they've been like, oh well, I didn't like Monster Hunter, will I like this? And it's kind of like, well, probably not, because it's the same kind of thing. You still have to like learn the weapons, and then you have to learn how the weapon interacts with the monsters and stuff like that, and you have to learn a lot of stuff via experimentation because they don't really give you much information, kind of, in the tutorials. So, like, if you have played Monster Hunter before, you'll get to grips with it really easily. But if you haven't played Monster Hunter before, you'll be like, God damn, this is so frustrating. You know, so unless you're willing to make that effort to learn the ins and outs of the genre, it's going to be you'll feel the same way about it. I mean, probably the best thing to do would be to, if you are curious about it, try Monster Hunter Rise on Xbox Game Pass, because it's basically the same kind of gameplay loop, really. So if you can get into Monster Hunter Rise, you'll probably really enjoy Wild Hearts. I'm playing Wild Hearts over Monster Hunter Rise right now. because I don't know. There's something about Monster Hunter Rise that I just kind of don't like, and I think it's because it's more of a condensed experience for. It's originally a Nintendo Switch game, you know, so like some of the more immersive Monster Hunter stuff just isn't there. Like, so for me, it's like Wild Hearts is better than Rise, but Monster Hunter World is better than both of them. But I don't know. But the other game I've been playing this week, Rand, is Like a Dragon. Ishin.
Oh, both new games. Okay, how's this one?
Yeah. And I put about 20 hours into Like a Dragon Ishin as well.
You be playing this week.
Yeah, dude, I play a lot of games.
Have you even loaded up World of Warcraft this week? That's like what, 70 hours between these two games? Jeez.
Yeah, I did do. Actually, no. Well, I raided last Sunday, but like it's towards the end of the season in WoW, so there's not much to do now, you know. So I'm just waiting for the next season in WoW. But I haven't really touched WoW recently. But yeah, I've been playing Like a Dragon Ishin, which is you know, it's a Yakuza game. You know, it's the Yakuza characters in a very, very authentic feudal Japan setting. Like I found myself like looking up on Wikipedia, like, is this what it was? Is this all fantasy fiction? It's like, no, it's like this is sort of grounded in reality. You know, the characters, and it talks about the shogunate and all this kind of stuff, political intrigue and drama. A lot of talking. A lot of talking.
We know how much you love a lot of cutscenes and talking.
Yeah. But that being said, it's like it's really engaging, even though there's no English voice actor, no English voiceover. I found myself really engaged with the story. So like I actually, you know, when I go back and play it again, I know exactly where I was in the story. I know exactly what's going on, and I know all the characters are because it's super engaging. The only thing I didn't really, there's a couple of things I don't really like about it. First of all, the visuals look really dated. And I think originally this game was a PS3 game or a PS2 game, I want to say even. So it's like it's sort of like a big remaster of the original, I believe. I'm not really clued up on the history of the game, but yeah, it looks quite dated, even though it has been sort of ported over to the modern Yakuza engine or whatever they're using. But because of that, it also feels really dated. You know, like the combat and stuff. It's kind of like I was going from playing like Wild Hearts, which has like this really tight melee combat, to playing Like a Dragon Ishin, which also has melee combat, but it doesn't feel good to play combat wise. You know, there's some cool moves you can do. Like you can switch between stances, and the guy, he has like a revolver and a samurai sword. So it's kind of like Red Dead Redemption in the sense that it's like they're moving out of the feudal age, and now like guns are showing up. You know, Europeans are coming and they're bringing their technology, cannons, and you know, revolvers and rifles and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, it's like the old ways of the samurai culture and whatever is dying out, and you know, there's a lot of change and upheaval, political, social, whatever, like Red Dead Redemption in a way. And that plays into the combat. So like you can have a gun and a sword, and like he tries to, like, you know, weave his sword attacks in with the gun attacks, and it looks really cool. And some of the moves you can do are really awesome. There's a lot of like execution attacks. It's also really hilarious in that sort of Yakuza way, where in the combat scene, you'll slice a guy up and shoot him in the head, and then like when it comes out of the battle scene, he's just like sort of knocked out on the floor, and he's saying, "Oh God, I'm sorry." You know, all Yakuza games kind of do that. Like you beat the hell out of them and kill them in the combat scene, and then like they're still alive afterwards. But man, I'm really eager to go back to it though. But it's just like Wild Hearts came out at the same time, and there's almost like too much to play right now.
And then you're gonna be playing. Are you gonna be playing Atomic Hearts next week?
Yeah, is that too? You know, like Atomic Heart looks pretty interesting. I'm a BioShock fan, and it at least superficially looks similar to BioShock. So I'm gonna look at that. Crooked G says, Jez, weren't you playing Fable? No, that was not me. That was my colleague, Zachary Bodie on Windows Central. They were playing Fable, and they wrote an article about it. Well, I just tweeted out their article. But yeah, that's been my week. I haven't really played much else. I haven't touched Hogwarts Legacy. Just
Mm.
not my kind of. I don't care about the Harry Potter universe, so I can't really get into it.
Yeah, you also told me that you think it's boring as shit. So-
Yeah, I mean, I was in the tutorial and I was like, I don't care about the story or the characters or
Hey, it
the
happens.
world.
It happens.
So I feel. Does anyone else feel like this? That like, is it a good game even if you don't like Harry Potter? Because at the moment I kind of feel like you have to like Harry Potter to like it. I mean,
I think no.
you like Harry Potter, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've read all the books and I've seen the movies, and I am a fan of the source material and stuff. But I think you can still enjoy the game without really knowing much about it. Now, I think the question you had posed on Twitter was, because it seems to get good reviews. Clearly, it's also selling well. Do you think it's going to be up for Game of the Year nomination at the Keighley's towards the end of the year?
Well, it's hard to say, right? I think it will probably be nominated because of how popular it's been. But at the end of the day, journalists are judging it. And
but journalists also
don't like it.
Yeah, well, that's not true because they are also the ones rating it, and it's also rated pretty high for the most part.
Yeah, so I don't know, man, because it's not just like it's not the reviewers who are on the judge panel necessarily. So it's a lot of the sort of editors and leadership, maybe.
Yeah, look how big this. So we had some European launch numbers, well, at least launch percentages. That Hogwarts Legacy's first week digital sales in Europe were 56% higher than Elden Ring, which, Elden Ring was like second best-selling game last year or third best-selling game, depending on like if it's behind Call of Duty or FIFA or whatever.
The thing about that, right? The thing about that, I don't trust these. Are these just physical sales?
No, this is everything, digital and physical.
Well, you have to presume that there might be a disproportionate amount of people like buying this physically because they're gifting it, ain't they, to kids?
Sure.
So,
I mean, but either way, it is.
But if it incorporates both, then yeah.
Well, it says
if it's just physical, I would be suspect.
It's enjoyed the biggest European launch outside of FIFA and Call of Duty series since October's 2018's Red Dead Redemption 2. So,
damn.
Hogwarts Legacy and Elden Ring are both fantasy games released during the same month of the year. Elden Ring obviously last February and went on to be one of 2022's best-selling games. So that's pretty impressive. Definitely going to be top 3 selling games of the year. I finished it. I don't know if anybody saw my tweets. It is I finished Hogwarts Legacy. It's weird because the save file says, because the save file keeps track, and the save file said 34 hours, and I ended up being level 35. Which to actually get the ending, well, there's like 2 endings. There's the ending for like what happens with the story, right? Which I guess I didn't even really know, but I guess there's a good and bad ending. I believe I got the good ending, but it really comes down to like literally a dialogue choice because this game otherwise doesn't really have a morality thing. Like, so my save file says 34 hours. The Xbox says 48, which I think is a little bit closer to the right number because I pretty much did almost everything you can do in the game. I'm only missing like 10 side quests, and the 10 side quests I'm missing are the treasure map ones where like you see a map and it's like you have to like kind of find the image on the map and the terrain and find something. It's like I didn't really care to want to do those. Now, if this was Achievement Rand back in the day, I had 1,000. You get 1,000 in this game, even though it would have taken a while for all the collections. So even though my initial criticism, maybe the biggest criticism I have of the game, is that at its core, it's a Ubisoft map game. Some people were like, how could you like it if you say it's a Ubisoft map game? But I'm like, it's still a very enjoyable, very fun game. Because like the whole Harry Potter theme holds it together, and the combat is outstanding where I never felt bored whatsoever. Sure, I might have been like, I don't really care to explore the lower reaches of the map because it's just there for you to do map icons, but I want to finish the story. I want to do all the, side missions that are actually good, because like any game, there are side quests that are fun, that are really interesting, and there are side quests that are just like stupid, and they're just there as time wasters. I mean, go here, find this, come back, talk to the person type stuff. There are relationship quests that you can do with other characters in the game that are actually really good, really well done, especially the one with Sebastian, that have some interesting... Well, at least the Sebastian's one has like an interesting end. But when I mentioned the thing about morality, about this game having a good and bad ending, it's interesting because the game otherwise doesn't have a morality system at all, because you can invest in the dark arts. You can become a dark art wizard, or a Death Eater. Not a Death Eater, but like you can use the killing curse and the torture curse, which in dialogue is always presented as this bad, very evil thing you can do. But there's no reason not to do it, because it's not like anything changes. It's not like anybody looks at you differently. It's not like there's some morality system where like, uh-oh, you're becoming evil. You're pulling away from a good Gryffindor into a horrible evil wizard, right? I mean, the whole game revolves around you killing a bunch of beasts and poachers and dark wizards anyways. So like when presented with this option of investing my talents into spells that can end fights quicker, you're damn right I'm gonna do it. You damn right. I don't know if anybody saw my video I posted of a fight with 2 trolls and a bunch of little goblins. And usually the trolls can be a pain in the ass to fight, especially if there are 2 of them. But all I had to do was use Crucio, upgraded, which when you use that attack upgraded, it spreads out the curses to other enemies. And then use the killing curse. And if you upgrade that spell, it kills all the cursed enemies on screen. So I had to use 2 spells, and literally 6 people died instantly. And you're like, it's presented like, oh man, the killing curse, it's so bad. But there's no like, why not use it? It's not like there's a negative effect to it. The whole game's about killing enemies. Like you kill enemies all game. It's like, why not use something that makes killing better?
It sounds like there's a lost opportunity there, because if you use the magic, isn't there something in the movies where they're like, if you use these spells you'll lose your soul or something? Or am I thinking of something else?
You might be thinking of something else, but usually the good people don't use those type of spells and the bad people do. So technically I'd be a bad person in this game world, but there's no consequences. So it's like, why not?
Sounds like a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they could do it for a potential sequel or another Hogwarts Legacy game where there is some sort of morality system to make it like, is it worth using these bad spells? But otherwise, yeah, I mean, even after 44 hours, even though the game still is a Ubisoft open world game to its core, everything else surrounding it, like the story, the whole like Harry Potter experience, and especially the combat, really just elevated it to the point where it was like, I think this game's good. I'd probably give it an 8.5, maybe an 8. I mean, I played 45 hours in a week essentially, so I enjoyed myself. There are things they can do to make it better for the sequel. Quidditch, you could do Quidditch. That would definitely be something. Morality system, better side content, right? I mean, there are some interesting side missions here, but for the most part, the side content is just time wasters. And just like less mappy icons, at least camouflage them a little bit better. But I really enjoyed it. I don't know where it would even... The thing is, like, thinking about it now, this might be in my top 10 for the year. Potentially even top 5, depending how other themes shape out. Like, even right now, I would say I enjoyed Dead Space and Hi-Fi Rush more. Like, if I were to rank Hogwarts right now compared to the other games, I enjoyed Hi-Fi Rush more, and I think I enjoyed Dead Space more. But I mean, I don't know if Dead Space is really... It's like, of course I was going to enjoy Dead Space because I love the original. So it's like, if you're just looking for original games, it would be Hi-Fi Rush and Hogwarts Legacy. But it really surprised me, and I'm really happy I played it. I'm really happy my game share partner decided to get it on a Monday instead of waiting until Friday, so I could experience it all week and talk about it in the show. So yeah, I'm really happy with Hogwarts Legacy, and I would imagine they would have to make a sequel with how big this one is. Whether 5 years from now, or not necessarily a sequel, but something else, I definitely would be down day one for it, because this was considering the studio and their pedigree, and if you look at what they've done in the past, like, we did the Cars games, the Disney Infinity, like stuff that is super small, not what you would consider AAA, and this is their first foray into a game this big, this huge, with a lot of different moving parts, like the room requirement and the Pokemon Beast game, and all that sort of stuff. Like, I think they nailed it for the most part. And I'd be very interested in seeing where they go for their next game. So yeah, let me get some of these super chats, Jez, and then I'm sure some of these will definitely have some interesting discussion topics. We have let's see, we got what's today, the 17th? Indeed it is. We have one from Sith Lord. In 18 weeks, LSD will be closed for a month when NASCAR comes to the 4th of July weekend. Wondering if that will affect you, Rand. Great show, guys. Lakeshore Drive will be closed, huh? For a month when NASCAR comes to town. Nah, it won't affect me. I don't really go downtown much. And honestly, the last time I actually had to drive on Lakeshore Drive was for work was back in 2006. I had to go all the way up to the north side. So every day I would basically take LSD all the way. I think I was doing some work at DePaul University, or one of the DePaul satellite things.
Oh, is that working with Butts Electric?
That was when I was working with Butts Electric, indeed. I want to say it was DePaul University, or maybe not the campus. Maybe it was it was up on the north side. I know that. In my mind, I think it's DePaul, but. Yeah, waking up every day at 4:30 in the morning. I'm out of the house at by 5:30, so you could essentially be there, by 6:15. What time did we start? We started really early too, because we were out by 2. But yeah, that won't affect me any. Kill9 says, all these games I'm going to get sucked back into Destiny again here in a week and a half. Also, World of Warcraft is great. Don't let Rand bully you, Jez. Yeah, I mean, it seems like he loves these type of games. He's talking about Destiny and then World of Warcraft, how great it is. Yes, the Destiny gets its expansion, Lightfall, next week, I believe.
You gonna play?
Am I gonna play? No, of course not. I haven't played. I did play Destiny 2. I got back into it a little bit. I was playing with Lord Cognito and Gaming Forte around the time Beyond Light came out. They were just sherpering me through the content.
Shepherding.
Well, they're like a Sherpa,
up a mountain. We've established this. Destiny has no mountains.
That is true. They don't. Even though they said you could go there, you definitely could not go there.
Man. That's a classic joke. That is.
Yeah, classic. So, I don't think I'll ever be playing Destiny again. Yeah, I will say the trailers for Lightfall make it look pretty damn cool, but I'm not interested in going any further in that. I'll let Cognito and Forte and all those guys, let them, constantly play it. We got Nick Marseille. He has a super chat here, says, where's Jim Ryan flying today? It's a good question. We need Xbox fans, look to the sky. Track Jim Ryan's private plane. Find out where he's up to today. You posted something on Twitter, Jez, I thought was interesting. You said, what if all the recent UFO sightings that the government's been shooting down these things, what if they're just sightings of Jim Ryan flying around to different regulators?
Yeah. Oh, Sony's lawyers flying around in the hypersonic jets or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's been 5 of those. What if those 5 were just basically the number of people that were going to buy PSVR 2 for $600?
Well,
hey,
they're
Nick.
They're the only people who can afford it. The people who own the private jets.
Yeah, only people that can afford the private jets are going to be the ones who getting that PSVR 2 and that what is it? They call it the new Horizon game, Call the Mountain, basically a mountain climbing simulator or something. I don't know.
Wow, at least one game at the moment.
Yeah.
But did you speaking of VR, did you see that Tencent shut down its own VR headset they were making because of lack of interest in the metaverse?
Yeah, I did see Tencent shut that down, which means they feel there's no way to make money in that, which is super interesting, right?
Yeah, it's super interesting and super accurate. I don't know.
We have
But
achievement saying, I've been trying to kill this S23 Ultra battery for 2 days. Looks like the podcast is going to be the thing that does it. Jez, how do you like it?
Yeah, S23 Ultra is just ultra. It's sick. Like the night and day battery life for me. I've been on a Galaxy Fold for 2 years now, and obviously there's some battery degradation after a couple of years, but it got really bad. And I suppose because it's got a bigger screen, using more battery makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the S23 Ultra, the battery is just monstrous. It feels like having my old Lumia 1520 again. Just a crazy battery life. Camera's sick. It's just a great phone, but it's boring. I think phones are boring now. There was a time where it was like, oh yeah, new phone. Oh my god, it's so much better than the last one. But nowadays it's always like little tiny upgrades, here and there. But yeah, I'll probably stick with this phone for a good long while. I think not really bother upgrading anything else. But I kind of feel like the folding phone dream is, I don't know, I'm bored of it. I just don't think it's going to be a thing now.
Yeah, probably not. Man, you guys talking about how long this battery lasts makes me want to like get rid of my iPhone and get something that lasts longer. I don't really care about phones,
get an S23, man.
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll switch back to Android because I already went from Windows Phone, and then I went from what did I go? I went from Android. I went to Windows Phone to Android to iOS, and now I'm thinking about going back to Android. I just don't care about that whole stuff. People are like, you can't leave. What about iOS Messenger? I'm like, who gives a shit about iOS Messenger? I don't care.
Dude, like literally nobody in Europe uses that iMessage or whatever it's called. Nobody uses it here. Everyone uses WhatsApp. I've never even used it and probably never will use it. Nobody uses SMS here either. Like SMS, that's just for receiving two-step verification codes from PayPal or something.
Yeah, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Jake says, Happy Friday, gents. Just finished my second week at my new job and can't wait to listen to the podcast and wish you and Jez the best. Well, thank you. And I hope you're having
rock and roll, baby.
A great week, and hopefully your new job is going extremely well. Our buddy Sin Vendetta says, Hey, Rand and Jez, hope you guys have a great weekend. I've been playing nothing but Hogwarts Legacy, and it's so much fun to play. I'm having a blast exploring the world and uncovering all its secrets. I will go for the 100%. Well, you're a better man than me, Sin, because once I saw that you had to basically get all the collections to 100%, I was like, I'm done. I am not finding all the, all the field pages and doing everything in the collections and getting to level 40. That was the other thing I didn't mention is I mentioned there's two endings. There's the ending where you could get good or bad depending on the choice you make at the end. And then there's the ending that actually runs the credits, where you have to be level 34 to finish. You have to and luckily I was already level 35 when I beat the game, so immediately the extra quest started up and I could see the ending. But if somebody was, just going through the main story or not doing as many side quests and all these sort of things that I was doing, because I was doing a lot, they could essentially finish the game level 28, level 29, maybe even less. And then it's like you can't even really see the true ending until you hit level 34. So I guess that sort of makes you experience a lot the game has to offer because, like I said, you can only get up to level 40. Like, that's where you stop earning XP and all those sort of things. So, and even with me doing almost everything outside of maybe 10 side quests, and obviously still having some of the collection left to do, I got all the way up to 35. So 34 is pretty up there. 34 is quite a bit. And I can't imagine most people when they finish the game being level 34. So they would be denied the actual credit sequence and the end cutscene and all those sort of things. So, We have Outbreak Gamers. What's up, buddy? He says, Rand and Jez, have a guess. When is the Starfield show? We'll be talking about Starfield in just a minute. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, Jez?
During the show, supposedly leaked still taken with a photograph camera off screen, leaked of a cinematic trailer for Starfield.
What?
A few minutes ago. Yeah,
really? Is this breaking news? Are you writing this up for Windows Central?
No, it looks blurry.
So it's one of those typical off-screen, angled, can't really tell, and people are like thinking it's legit. Why does it always happen?
I think it might be legit.
You think it might be legit?
Yeah, it looks quite fairly possible to be legit. But if that is the real deal, I would say that it's probably going to be sooner rather than later, I would think. But we'll talk about it a little bit more.
We'll talk about it probably just after we're done with this. Crow MKI says, hi guys, with Rumbleverse coming to an end, that makes 2 games in a row that haven't really gone Iron Galaxy's way. Think they'd be interested in a Killer Instinct sequel? Would Xbox be interested? I guess that is the question, isn't it? Is this idea of, okay, we have Killer Instinct, we want to do it again. I mean, they've talked about it, but there really isn't a champion within Microsoft that really is pushing for it, right? You had Double Helix do it, but they got bought out by Amazon, and you bring in Iron Galaxy to sort of finish it off, do seasons 2, 3, and 4. I think they did 4 seasons, right? At least 2 and 3. But then Iron Galaxy's like, we wanted to make our own thing. Right? Because you can make your own money, bigger money, by making your own IP, which is what they did with Rumbleverse. They partnered with Epic. And I don't know, Jez, if you read the blog post by Iron Galaxy, it really seems like they don't agree with taking Rumbleverse down. Like, that seemed to be an Epic decision. Like, Epic's like, we're burning way too much money here on keeping these servers up, and having these bots playing these games for the low amount of humans that are playing it that aren't spending any money on these cosmetics. So we're shutting it down. And it really felt like Iron Galaxy was like, that's, really against that decision. So now everybody's like, well, since Rumbleverse died, that means they're free to do Killer Instinct, right? But is it really as simple as that? Well, now it's like they don't have anything to do. Well, at least we think they don't have anything to do, and Microsoft wants to do Killer Instinct. Well, then they should immediately come together and make a Killer Instinct, yes?
You would think so. But maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they want to work on something that they can own forever, or I don't know. I want to hope that could be a thing that would happen, but, nice things don't happen, Rand. It's only pain and misery these days.
Only pain and misery? Is that because you're worried about Blizzard getting divested from Activision Blizzard and me laughing in your face when it does happen?
Ah, man.
Oh, you know how much I would love that. After all this talk, Call of Duty's multi-platform for 10 years, and Jez is like, I don't even care because Blizzard's coming home, baby. And then Blizzard's getting divested.
Dude,
I would laugh so hard at you, Jez. I would laugh so hard.
Sony, Xbox could literally make Call of Duty exclusive to PlayStation for all I care. They could buy Activision Blizzard and then just give Call of Duty permanently exclusive for free to PlayStation and make it free for PlayStation owners to play. I wouldn't give a shit as long as I got Blizzard out of it. Alas, it looks like Microsoft might sacrifice Blizzard.
Those just rumors.
Just rumors. We'll talk about it.
Oh, they might do this. It's like, does the regulators even care about Blizzard in that way? Either way.
No.
I was laughing at Jez. We were discussing that in DMs, and I'm just like, if this happens, I'm gonna laugh at you. And he's like, shut up. I won't even be an Xbox fan if that happened.
Yeah, I swear, if they do that, I'm out. I'm out, bro.
Jez says that
PC Master Race.
Just keep this in mind, guys. Jez literally has just said that if Xbox has to divest Blizzard, he's done being an Xbox fan. He's done.
I'm done. I'm done with Xbox.
So that means
if they sacrifice Blizzard for Candy Crush, I'm out.
Do it.
I'm out.
If
Xbox, if you're listening to this, if you get rid of Blizzard for Candy Crush, I'm done. I'm gone, baby. I'll become I'll become one of those really insufferable PC Master Race people. I will even, Rand, this is how far I'll go, man.
Okay.
I will even install Linux. I will install
Xbox,
Linux.
if you're listening, Phil, if you're listening and you're hearing this from Jez, I'll double down harder on being an Xbox fan if you divest Blizzard.
Oh. You like one of those guys who said for every vegan I'm gonna eat 2 steaks.
Yeah, it's like, oh man,
But
if you can make Jez's life more miserable by divesting Blizzard, you might lose him, even though you won't, because what is he gonna do for his job? He runs a co-host an Xbox podcast and writes Xbox articles on Windows Central, but he's gonna be PC Master Race.
I will. We're Windows Central, man. We're not Xbox Central.
Yeah, you might as well be.
You
might as well be Xbox Central.
Yeah, screw that, man. And I'll join Sacred Symbols, man.
Sacred Symbols?
Yeah, I'll become a PlayStation fan.
No, you won't. You can't even finish. You can't even finish PlayStation games. There's too much dialogue and cutscenes for you.
Nope. I'll become a PlayStation fanboy. Swear down. I'll play exclusively on Linux, PlayStation, Stadia. Oh wait, it doesn't exist anymore. I'll play on Nintendo Switch.
Please let it happen. Let it happen.
But what if they divested COD, man?
Wouldn't care. What do I care if they divested COD for? I only played the COD campaign. I couldn't care less.
They should sell COD to Nintendo.
They should.
So
they should. What else we got here? Juan says, "Loved the world and gameplay, but the story was kind of meh." Is an opinion. A morality system and having consequences for your choices would definitely need it. I do agree with that for sure. Joaquin, he says, "Hey, pretty boys, if you could choose one third-party game to hit Game Pass this year, which would you choose?" Also, Rand, admit First Law is better than Mistborn. No, I'm not going to admit First Law is better than Mistborn because they're two totally different types of fantasy books. I will say, though, I think Joe Abercrombie writes characters better and dialogue better, but I think Brandon Sanderson writes worlds better and magic better. And some of Brandon's stories and plots are way more interesting than most of the stuff that happens in First Law. So one third-party game to enter Game Pass, Jez, this year. What would it be for you? I already know it's Diablo. There you go. Boom. Done.
Well, it won't be Diablo because it'll be first party. Diablo will be first party.
Well, I mean, right now it's third party. So he said if there could be any, so like it'd be Diablo going Game Pass. Come on, you already.
Diablo. I've been calling it Diablo since I was a little kid, man.
I guess for me, it'd be something I really wanted to play, so I'd save myself some cash. So that'd be either like Jedi Fallen Survivor, because that's my number one most.
Rand! I got news about Jedi Fallen Survivor.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
It's got dismemberment.
I did see some articles. Partial human dismemberment or something.
You can cut people up.
Good. I mean, because that's what a lightsaber's supposed to do, right?
I always thought it was so weird in the first game where it's like you stick a lightsaber through a dude and he's just like, no, just nothing. But now, yeah, you can cut people's arms and legs off. That's sick.
That's pretty good.
And heads. Yeah, game of the year. Confirmed.
Yeah,
I need to finish the original.
Well, another game among a pile of other games that you've never finished.
Well, it's your fault on it. Dude, I had like 5 hours of meetings today. 5 hours of meetings. About
what?
Just random stuff. Audience meeting, some other meeting. I can't even remember what they were for. Well, this is what happens when you're at managerial level, apparently. You just have meetings and you don't do any work.
I guess so. I guess that is the case. I guess it'd be that or like Alan Wake 2, another game. Probably my second most anticipated. Well, one of the games I definitely would be buying that now I wouldn't have to and I could save that money because I can play it on Game Pass. Nintendon the Otaku says, who had the more surprising glow up, Avalanche or Tango? Now that is an interesting question.
Wait, what? Glow up? Tango? Glow up. What are you talking about? The Evil Within is a masterpiece. You don't glow up from the Evil Within.
Well, you do when you make Hi-Fi Rush.
Nah, Evil Within.
I would say Avalanche probably, because considering the type of games they made before and then this, whereas Jez is right, Tango was already making pretty good, AAA survival horror games where Avalanche really wasn't making any sort of AAA experience. So yeah, I'd probably say Avalanche.
Yeah,
for sure.
Tango's sick. People need to put some respect on Evil Within's name, please. That is one game I have finished. Rand.
Okay. What else we got here? From Achievement that says
it's a rare achievement. It's a rare achievement to finish the Evil Within, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's on Game Pass. A lot of games that are on Game Pass are rare if you actually finish them because of how many people start them and then don't finish them.
Oh, dude! I think this was before it was on Game Pass.
Oh well, then yeah.
I got that achievement. Yeah, I don't know.
Achievement says S23 Ultra can do hardware-based ray tracing. And Purple Haze says, do you think Microsoft will probably do an exclusive deal with Warner Brothers to make one of their IPs exclusive to Xbox, like Sony and Spider-Man and Wolverine?
Nah.
We get that question a lot.
Nah.
I doubt it. It'd be really cool because more games are great. But
Microsoft doesn't do those kind of deals. Sadly, that just seems to be the way it works.
Yeah, we'd seen reports that Marvel went to Xbox to talk about doing exclusive games, and Xbox basically turned them down and said they wanted to focus on their own stuff. So they went to Sony, and Sony was like, absolutely, exclusive Spider-Man game? All right, we'll get Insomniac to work on that. So I would imagine I think Xbox wants to own the stuff they make. They don't want to license anything.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Warner Brothers is like you're never going to own the IPs. So it's like what would you make exclusive? Wonder Woman or whatever, right?
Mm.
So I just
what would you make exclusive? I don't know. DC just doesn't really have anything as compelling that would translate well to video games. I often think about things like, Spawn isn't DC, is it? I don't think.
No,
Spawn isn't.
I'm not sure what that is actually.
It's Todd McFarlane.
Yes, Todd McFarlane does that.
Yeah. But I'd love to see a Spawn game, but it'd have to be like mature rating, and then you kind of lose a large chunk of the audience, and Microsoft doesn't like mature rated games, So it's nice to think about what could be, but I don't think Microsoft has this sort of weird blocker when it comes to understanding human culture, I think sometimes. But oh well. Spawn would be so sick.
Flame, member for 20 months, says, hey, howdy gents, it seems like the honest to gymnasts hoof haters are coming out of the woodwork to bring Xbox down to the Xbox One level again. Thoughts? But there definitely has been a lot of Xbox dooming lately, mainly centered around the idea of because of how well PlayStation has been doing as of late, and that PlayStation doing well means Xbox isn't doing well, and a lot of opinions about Game Pass because of what was revealed. So there definitely seems to be a lot of this talk surrounding the platform and its health moving forward. Like, oh my god, is it sustainable? Are they going to have to backtrack on Game Pass? How long before they stop, making systems because they can't sell them, and all this sort of stuff. It is interesting to sort of see. We'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff later. Let me look through the chat here to see if there's any more member chats, because I think I missed some of them. We have one here from Dub. So it says, if COD gets divested, does that mean all the teams that work on COD will be divested with it? So Toys for Bob as example, how would that work? Well,
they'd have to take it all the way back to shareholders. It'd be a big mess, wouldn't it? I would have thought.
I guess it all depends on whatever deal they would make with whatever company would be buying the Call of Duty IP. What would you package in with the sale? Or there's also the possibility Xbox could keep the studios and then a third party could license Call of Duty from them. So then it would for this example, you have all the studios from Activision. They all work on Call of Duty, right? Xbox keeps those studios, but they can't publish Call of Duty. So in this scenario, let's just say EA. Say there's a bidding war on the Call of Duty rights. And let's just say EA wins them. So then EA publishes Call of Duty. So Xbox keeps the studios making it, and EA essentially buys the IP, but then licenses, or at least then contracts the Call of Duty studios that Xbox owns to make the game, and they can release it. Maybe that's a scenario that's possible. Kind of like how Embracer owns Crystal Dynamics, but is making Tomb Raider, but Amazon is publishing Tomb Raider, or how they're also making Perfect Dark, but Xbox is publishing Perfect Dark. Kind of like something like that. Or you could look at it like if that was the case and they had to divest COD and sell it to somebody, that they would probably, have to sell the studios with it, because COD is useless without the people that make the game, that are set up currently to make the game, and that are set up to make it every year or every other year with all the support studios that they have. And I don't think any third-party publisher would be equipped to buy the IP and then build up new studios or transform existing studios into Call of Duty studios. So some of your initial investment would be wasted because you wouldn't be able to get out a game on time. And in that time frame, while you're trying to, build a new studio or new studios, or transform an existing studio into Call of Duty studio, somebody might come in with a competing product and do better. So, if I'm Amazon or EA or somebody, and of course this is all just a hypothetical scenario because nobody knows if this is going to happen. I mean, the deal could go through, stunning everybody, because a lot of people out there think the deal's dead in the water. They think ABK, they think the deal's dead. They think Xbox is going to have to divest Call of Duty or Activision and Blizzard, right? The only thing, be funny, the only thing Xbox gets out of this is King. Oh, wouldn't that be something? Hey, Xbox fans, guess what? The only thing we got is mobile games, which none of you care about. Yay, what a win for Xbox and Xbox fans. We got King, and we had to sell off the other two parts of it. We had to waste 1.5 years of everybody's time and our money so we can only get King. Wouldn't that be something?
Yep. It'd be something bad for sure.
It'd be something funny. That'd be damn sure, but not
something
the laughing kind of funny, but something funny.
I mean, what does King even have? Wow, they own King.com. I mean, that's an asset right there, bro. They own Candy Crush Saga, Candy Crush Soda, Farm Heroes Saga, Pet Rescue Saga, Candy Crush Jelly Saga, Bubble Witch Saga. What is all this shit, man? What half of these games are? Oh, these are all just like knockoffs of existing games. So Bubble Witch is basically that really old school Bubble Blast Japanese arcade game. Man, they don't make that many games. King sucks, man. King sucks. What are they seriously gonna? Oh man, I'm just
just calm down. It's okay. Calm down. Blizzard hasn't been divested yet, Jez. It's okay. It's okay. Calm down. It'll be all right, my guy. It'll be good. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, man, if they, bro, if we only end up with King out of this, bro, that's it. I'm done. Linux, PlayStation, I'm done, bro. I am done.
Jez,
we'll be renaming the podcast, bro.
To what? Linux. What were the Linux 2?
Steambox 2. Yeah.
We're renaming the podcast to the PlayStation 2?
Yeah, the PlayStation 2 or the Linux podcast.
Jez will invest in a PSVR 2. You hear me, Microsoft?
I will literally buy, if they divest Blizzard, I will literally buy a PSVR. I will literally do that. I won't even use it. I'll just buy one. I'll just buy one and put it in the drawer.
Yeah. Just buy one.
It'll be a symbol of my pain. A symbol of my pain, bro.
We have a member chat here from Highlander.
Hang on. Before that, there's breaking news, Rand.
More breaking news. So what was the breaking news earlier that we had, or was there any?
Starfield.
Oh yeah, the Starfield thing you talked about. Okay. What's this? What's the breaking news now?
Bethesda has confirmed that there is a physical disc in the box of Redfall.
Yeah, that was going to be the next topic we would hit. So let me just get this member chat out of the way. Highlander, thank you for being a member for 6 months. He says, had to get 2 Series S's, one for my wife and my daughter, and each a copy of Hogwarts, so just so I can play mine on the Series X. Okay, so I think I'm all caught up to everything. If you guys can do us a huge favor, make sure you hit that like button. Please hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. I'd really appreciate it. Share this out. Let people know we're live. And, I mean, Jez sort of mentioned it. First topic, or, I mean, we already did what we're playing. So, like, Redfall, right? I had Redfall written down here as a topic. A lot of controversy surrounding Redfall. Like, the whole, it's online only, Rich. We talked about maybe a couple weeks ago in a podcast, right? We were just like, okay, it doesn't affect me because I don't care, and I don't play games unless I'm online anyways. I just didn't understand the necessity for Redfall to be online, right? This isn't World of Warcraft or Destiny, in my opinion. You know, games like Borderlands 3 with do loot, they aren't online. So I just questioned the necessity for Redfall to be online only. It didn't make any sense to me. They haven't explained why. Are they using some sort of cloud power Azure to do something with the NPCs and it needs to be online? Or is there some reason, some excuse they could give to be like, yep, this is why we need always online, that people would be like, okay, whatever, fine. But no, haven't heard anything, just that it's always online. And then it came out earlier today. I forget even where it came out. It was maybe like a Q&A on their thing, on their website. Oh, on the Bethesda support site that said the physical Xbox copies of Redfall are Xbox Play Anywhere codes, which can be played on both the Xbox Series X and S and the Microsoft Xbox app on PC, which got people thinking that there's no disc in the case, right? And obviously there's a lot of people that are still like, well, what the hef, right? What the fuck? Like, how could you not put a disc in the case? Is this just the reintroduction of 2013 Microsoft DRM where they tried to make physical and digital and everybody losing their rights? Microsoft lying about, physical game preservation and all this sort of stuff. And then, like, Gamefly, I saw Gamefly came out and said, no, we're still renting the game. And I'm like, well, Gamefly can only rent the game if there's an actual disc to actually rent. Like, they're not sending out codes. So that at least told me that there's going to be a disc available. Now, it may not be the whole game on the disc. Remember, like, Halo Infinite was just really a download installer. Like, you had to actually download the game from the disc. Like, you had to download the game. You couldn't play Halo Infinite from the disc. And I sort of wonder if that is going to be the scenario here. Like Tim Par21 says in the chat, the question is the game on the disc. I wonder if that's the thing, where if this will be like Halo, where you need to, the disc is just essentially your
license,
a download installer, and you just download the game. So what was it? So did Microsoft come out and actually address this?
Yeah, it was Bethesda support who came out and addressed it. I'll read exactly what they said in a second. Bear with me. I'm just dealing with some more embargoed work things. You found it.
It says, I can read it. There was unclear Redfall information shared on Bethesda customer support frequently asked questions regarding Redfall. It has since been corrected. The physical retail version of the Redfall Xbox Standard Edition does come with the Blu-ray disc. The Byteback upgrade can be purchased separately. Within the Byteback upgrade, you will find a code that grants you the Byteback upgrade in-game menus. Owners of the Xbox physical version of Redfall who wish to buy the Byteback upgrade can do so either digitally or participating retailers. The physical retail version of the PC version does not come with the disc of the game. And the Xbox Standard Edition is the only SKU that provides players with a physical disc of the game. So I guess the Byteback Edition doesn't come with the game, it just comes with the codes. But the Standard Edition of the game, which seems to be a thing lately, where like the most expensive version doesn't come with the game itself, it just comes with codes or whatever. But the Standard Edition of the game does come with a physical disc for the game, but whether or not that actually has the full game on it, or you still have to download it, is anybody's question or anybody's guess at this point. So there you have it. That is straight from Bethesda. I'm gonna go to their website to see if there's actually any more information. No, they basically tweeted out all the information. So what do you think, Jez? What do you think about this?
It doesn't bother me personally. I know there's a crowd that's like they prefer discs, and there's a game preservation crowd. But at the end of the day, this is a live service game. You know, it's what pertains to game preservation for Redfall will be, you know, a hacked version that can, you know, have dead private servers or something. Kind of like for years, World of Warcraft Classic was run on pirated servers from people who wanted the classic WoW experience, and then eventually Blizzard was like, okay, well, we'll release our own version of WoW Classic, you know. But this talking like 18 years ago, you know, content from 18 years ago, people bringing back via pirate servers, doesn't bother me at all. I personally don't care, you know. So it's hard for me to get super passionate about it. As I'm someone who I stopped buying physical discs in the 360 gen, you know. Because like they first started doing direct to digital in the 360 gen, and increasingly I was like, well, I'll just buy this off my Xbox. And you know, there is this sort of mentality where it's like, well, what if they shut down the servers? You lose access to your content, and it's like, well, they shut down the servers. I mean, Redfall's not going to work anyway because it's a service game. So yeah, I'm just kind of over it, and I think like it's kind of the way it's worked on PC since forever. You know. When's the last time you installed a PC game off the disc? When's the last time you even bought a PC game on a disc? No one complains about Steam being the vehicle for where you get PC games from. So I don't get the pushback, frankly. Especially like often you'll see like concern trolling from people who are also primarily PC gamers as well, which it's just really strange and interesting to me. Like, hang on a sec, aren't you a PC Master Race person? Don't you buy all your games on Steam anyway, which have no discs? I don't get it. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about it, because I'm pretty sure you're pretty much all digital as well, right?
Yeah, my last physical game I bought was in 2014 when Titanfall came out. It was the last physical game I bought. Ever since then, everything's been digital. I mean, I do use the game share system, which is all digital as well, which, I mean, I love game share. So it's like, why not? You know, I don't know. I never really was that much of a physical like hoarder anyways. I would buy the ones I wanted to keep, and then when the new generation started, I would just sell those games. I like digital. Physical, I don't think look, I always kind of just joke around about physical dying. I think there's obviously a place for physical media, because I don't think you'll ever get to a scenario where like 100% or 90% have digital. I think there's always a place for people who want the discs, and that is, a good. There is a good market there, right? I think we've even seen like, what is it, like companies are, I think like digital games are like 70% of the market, so that means like physical's 30% or something along those lines. I mean, 30% is still pretty high. Now maybe 10 years from now that number is a little bit less. I just know, like, you look at it, both Sony and Microsoft put out digital-only machines this gen, when, like, Microsoft was crucified for trying to bring some sort of physical ownerships to digital games, or, like, digital ownership to digital benefits to physical games, 24-hour check-in and all that stuff, which is absurd, but they were at least like, hey, here's this physical disc, and once you put it in the system, it's a digital game, and you don't need the disc anymore, right? But you need to check in every 24 hours because you could get rid of it and give it to somebody else. Like, some of that was a little bit convoluted, but I like the idea of like a physical game, like essentially becoming a digital game. It's just that I don't like the idea of like the console always having to be connected, even though, like I mentioned before, like I'm always connected. So it does sound like I'm being a little bit hypocritical. But
someone in chat said that, like, well, at least Steam has an offline mode.
Yeah, an offline.
But so does
mode.
Xbox. So does Xbox. If you've got your Xbox set to your home console, you can play offline games offline.
Sure.
Without doing
if you're not game
checking.
sharing, yeah.
Yeah, like the thing is, most people are game sharing.
Well, I don't even know if most people, Jez, really most people. I don't think so.
Well, a lot of people who participate in the discourse around it probably are game
sure. There's probably a lot of people that do game share. I would imagine the vast majority do not, because they don't even know about it. honestly.
Yeah, the normies don't, sure, but I think like people in the hardcore community who are arguing about it, a lot of them probably do game share, and a lot of them probably don't realize that Xbox does have an offline mode if you don't game share, which is to be expected. But Redfall is an online game. It uses online servers, presumably dedicated servers, as a result of the fact that it has an open world. If you do peer-to-peer with an open world game, you end up with tethering like Halo Infinite. You end up with tethering like State of Decay. So like this is like a trade-off of having an online game. You could argue that maybe they should have
Is it
made
though?
it
Because
so.
Gotham Knights is co-op and there's no tethering. And it's a pretty big open world.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how the game's structured at the end of the day. Like Grounded's peer-to-peer as well and doesn't have tethering. But some games, it feels like, depending on how they're structured, need to do it that way. And I don't know how or what it is, because I'm not a dev, but at the end of the day, it seems like it's been some kind of engineering decision to have it this way. It's not like they're trying to nickel and dime people somehow, because it's not cheap to run dedicated servers, So clearly there is a reason they've opted to make it this way.
Well,
and it's not to rip people off, there's something about it that requires online servers.
Well, they should probably come out and tell people what that reason is.
Well, they won't do it because these are game developers we're talking about.
Sure.
There's just no.
I sort of feel
transparency. Oh, hang on. People are correcting me that Halo has dedicated servers for co-op instances. Well, fair enough. I didn't know that because I don't.
It's because your hate for Halo is clouding your judgment.
Yeah, but I'm just saying but Halo's also always online as well. So there's a reason for why they've chosen to do it this way, and it's not to give people a bad experience. I think people are just kind of like, well, why can't, if I'm planning to play Redfall solo, which a lot of people will be because it's still an arcane game, and they've said, yeah, you can play it solo. I'll probably be playing it solo. It's kind of like, why don't you offer an offline mode? Like Grounded, you can play Grounded solo offline with a local server, or you can play it online with a cloud server. Very cool sort of way they've done it with Grounded, that you can sync your cloud server to your mates over Xbox Live. I think that's a really cool implementation. And Minecraft is similar. Like, you can have an offline Minecraft world, you can have a cloud-based Minecraft world. You can choose. Having the choice would be a better thing. But, again, that's when you're adding those kind of choices, it creates engineering overheads, blah, 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 blah. We need to see what the trade-offs are first. I think like there's a lot of like expectation that somehow this is going to be a bad thing, and maybe it will be a bad thing. But I'm kind of like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt first and find out if it's actually a good game. See if it's if the implementation they've opted for is actually worthwhile or necessary, or if it'll even be a big deal.
Yeah, but that doesn't help. But that doesn't help my outrage now when I want clicks and likes and retweets and YouTube.
Yes,
because I need to be angry right now without knowing all the information, because that's how it works. You have to be angry all the time about stuff.
It really does feel like people are just reaching for things to be angry about with Redfall. I don't know what it is. What is it about Redfall that everyone's so nervous about?
I think started off with a lot of people who enjoy Arcane's games thinking they've succumbed to the games as a service curse, right?
Yes.
That really doesn't look unique. It just looks like a shooter, which is something that Deathloop didn't have, because at least Deathloop had a really cool aesthetic and a whole different mechanic, right? So people feel like the soul of Arcane is being essentially destroyed. Then you add on top of it an online-only experience, something that, like, hey, if the servers ever go down, I won't be able to ever play this game. And with that coupled with the same time that news happened, I believe we also had the information that certain games were being removed from the 360 store, and then there was like, oh, the 360 store might go down in May, so people were like linking the two in their mind, like Redfall's always online, look at these games are leaving the 360 store. At some point, Redfall, 30 years from now, I won't be able to play the game I bought because it's always online or whatever. I can't play it when I'm offline. And now this, where it's like, okay, you have Xbox is probably the most digital focused of all the platforms, right? You have a situation with Halo Infinite where the game's not on the disc. You still needed to download it. Then, you hear the rumors, there's no disc in the Redfall case, so basically it's just a bunch of plastic that you're paying $70 for because you just still got to download it anyways, and not everybody has good internet to download everything, so it's like, rah, 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 I'm so angry. And then, people get all upset and they talk about, but didn't Phil and them talk about game preservation and saying how this should be a better thing? And they have. So it's like, well, then why are they not really doing a good thing for game preservation with their own games? And it's sort of like, I even sort of feel like this is more a Bethesda decision than an Xbox decision, because we've seen they're sort of like, I think this is more like Bethesda's choice because they seem to operate independently. Like, Xbox might tell them where they can publish, but it seems like all the other choices are, like, you sort of are up to you, right?
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, when there's a bad decision, it's like, Microsoft.
Yeah, well, that's what I told you before. This is what I told you before, right? Redfall, if Redfall is bad, and if Redfall and Starfield are bad, then it's all Xbox's fault, right? It's all Xbox's fault. All Microsoft's fault. They ruined Bethesda. If Redfall and Starfield are good, Xbox had nothing to do with it at all. So in this scenario, no matter what happens, whether the games are good or bad, if the games are bad, it's Microsoft's fault. If the games are great, it's Bethesda's. It's because of Bethesda. Nothing to do with Microsoft or Xbox. So because this is negative, this is a Microsoft problem, right? So.
We just got more breaking news.
More breaking news. Okay.
That Starfield leaked picture was in fact an AI-generated image that someone slapped text over and then took a photograph.
Imagine that. Imagine that shocking AI-generated photo. Of course it was. That was the first. I actually went to Idle Slaw's Twitter because I saw it and I was like, that's fake as hell. And then I looked through the comments and I saw a better high-quality version of that picture, and I'm like, this is AI-generated. That was my first thought when I saw it. I was like, this is AI-generated. And sure enough, it was. But that doesn't stop people spreading it online and being like, could this be real? I don't know, man.
People are hungry for info, man.
Of course they're
hungry for info.
They're definitely hungry for info. Who wouldn't be? I'm hungry for info. I want to learn more about Starfield. I want to see a cool trailer. I want to know when I'm going to be playing it.
I don't want to know any of that shit, man. I don't want to. I don't know anything. I just want Blizzard. I just want Blizzard, man. Why can't I have Blizzard, Rand?
Tom Henderson's in the chat. He just told us about the Bethesda stuff, by the way.
Tom Henderson.
Hopefully you're doing well, Tom.
Number one.
Public enemy number one. Most hated by gaming journalists. The one find out the one thing he does that makes gaming journalists hate him. Right? You use that clickbait article or headline.
10 game journalists hate Tom Henderson for this reason.
Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
How dare you not agree to embargoes and NDAs, Tom?
How dare you break the sacred rules established for...
I've agreed to embargoed information. Well, I've actually signed NDA documents. Like when I had to get the Series X early, I had to sign an NDA for it.
I sign NDAs 24/7.
No, you're not signing NDAs. You're just agreeing to embargoes.
Dude, I signed 2 NDAs literally this week.
2 NDAs?
I'm about to sign another.
Wait, you're literally signing a non-disclosure agreement?
Yeah.
Wow.
All sorts of stuff.
Damn. I get review codes for games early that I just agreed to an embargo date for, which isn't a big deal. The only time I've signed an NDA was for getting the Series X early, which for whatever reasons.
You should have seen the NDA for Red Dead Redemption 2. It was massive. It was huge. You had to we had to physically... Dude, they physically mailed the NDA for Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
To Ash. Do you remember Asher? Old writer on Windows Central and Xbox Mad. They physically mailed him the NDA for that in an envelope. And he had to sign it and post it back. So, yeah, the NDAs are all... Groovy.
So
You know,
wait,
but NDAs are like, you know, NDAs don't necessarily mean you can't ever speak. It's like a lot of embargoes are NDAs, right?
no.
Non-disclosure agreements, and then they expire. Yes, Rand. NDA is an embargo. It's the same thing.
No. There's a difference. An embargo.
No, there is not.
No. Because I've had to go to DocuSign to sign an NDA with my signature and date and all that stuff. Embargoes is literally you just tell the person who gave you the code, yeah, I'll agree to the embargo and I won't post anything early. There's a big difference between the two, because one of them will be like, we'll fucking sue you if you break this. And the other one's just like, oh, if you break this, you might be in trouble. We might not ever give you codes again in the future, but who really knows? You're not really in legal trouble. You break an NDA, you really might be in legal trouble. There's a big difference between the two, Jez. Like, what are you talking about?
If I search NDA in my inbox, there's just tons. There's tons and tons of NDAs, but the NDAs expire. You know, they always have an expiry date.
Sure, they do. But either way. What were we talking? Oh yeah,
preview builds are often under NDA.
Sure, preview builds. Yeah. Those are NDA'd. Yes.
I'm under an NDA for. I'm actually under an NDA for something Tom Henderson. I think Tom Henderson leaked, or was it Jeff Grubb? For a game, an old game from an old leak. I think it might have been Jeff actually. It's either Jeff or Tom. Who else really does this? But yeah, there's all sorts of fun stuff going on right now. There's too much stuff. I just got another code for another upcoming game that I don't have time to play. Basically, what I need, Rand, I need a PA.
You need a personal assistant, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to be a PA?
No, not really. Somebody in chat would probably love to be your personal assistant.
I think you'd be a good personal assistant. I can imagine you with a clipboard.
Maybe.
A clipboard and some glasses. Tight miniskirt. Wait, no.
Well, excuse me?
No. Anyway, moving on.
Get a couple super chats here from the peeps. We have one here from Dead Planet who says, "What's the latest on Indiana Jones's exclusivity?" I mean, I don't know. Maybe Tom Henderson knows. Can ask Tom in chat. Tom, do you know anything about Indiana Jones's exclusivity?
Yeah, let's just get Tom to leak everything. We'll get
Tom. Tom will say something. I always was under the assumption that the game was multi-platform.
I'm willing to bet money that Indiana Jones is multi-platform.
Now that's not to say
I'm 95% sure it's multi-platform.
That's not to say that they couldn't negotiate some sort of exclusivity. It's been a long time since the game's been announced, and we haven't seen it since. So it's certainly possible that the game Xbox could have negotiated exclusivity for it. I would imagine. My thought is, I think the game's going to be multi-platform, but day one in Game Pass. I think that's how it's going to go. And Tom says he doesn't know, which I figure most people don't, because there's not a lot of Indiana Jones news about machine games going around. But my guess would be that it's multi-platform. Because I don't know. I sort of feel like it was signed before the acquisition, and Bethesda was a multi-platform publisher, so Disney would have been like, all right, multi-platform. You know, you need to release on as many platforms as possible. Xbox acquires them, and they honor contracts. Granted, they could have went back and maybe renegotiated to get some better terms. Maybe they tried to get it in Game Pass day one rather than, get full exclusivity. But we'll find out eventually. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it could end up in Game Pass day one or something like that. But I'm like 95% sure that'll be on PlayStation. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Def Leppard said it's a Sony VR exclusive. So
Sony VR exclusive. Okay. Sin Vendetta, he says, I only buy physical copies of the games I love for collecting reasons. I buy them, but don't open them. I buy the game digitally to play it. A lot of people would consider that weird, but hey, I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Buying physical copies of the games you keep unopened for your collection, and you buy them digitally to play them. To keep their value.
I used to do that, man. I used to have like 150 Xbox 360 discs, and I still have like hundreds of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games. But there was a point where I was just like, I don't have physical space anymore, because I had like literally 2,000 DVDs as well. I had like a DVD of every single movie, and I was proper thinking like, man, I need to hoard these in case I ever, lose the internet or something, But there just came a point where I was just like, I don't actually need all this. So I just ended up giving them all away to a charity shop, And maybe one day I'll really regret that. And even now, I'm kind of thinking, man, I should have at least ripped those DVDs and put them on a NAS storage device or something. but yeah, I've been digital for so long now. My internet's so stable, and it just kind of, I feel like if we're ever in a situation where I couldn't have stable internet connection, I feel like there'd be something so wrong with everything going on that having access to offline media would be the least of my concerns. Like, if I can't afford the internet for whatever reason, I won't be thinking, oh God, I can't play offline games. Or if the internet's been blown up, probably something pretty dire has happened to society. And I probably won't be thinking about, oh no, I can't play Redfall anymore. So, I just kind of think of it in that terms, Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'm naive. Do you think I'm naive, Rand? Do you think I'm naive? Am I feelings-based Jez right now, or facts-based Jez?
You're always feelings-based Jez, especially when it comes to Blizzard. You're feelings-based Jez.
Have you seen my badass new Horde tattoo?
I did see your new tattoo.
Yeah, I got the Horde logo from, well, I've wanted that since I was 18, and I just thought, you know what, screw it, and I got it, and no regrets.
Yeah. We have a super chat here from Kevin Malone saying, "Hey guys, love the show. Many thanks." Well, thank you for sending the super chat and supporting us. We appreciate you very much. And Robo 2024 saying, "I have to agree with Rand. Just watching the first episode of Picard, I wish they had just dropped them all, half or multiple episodes. # sorry Paris." Yes, I mean watching all the episodes in a row is objectively better than watching it week to week. 100%.
Picard.
I agree with you. Yeah, there's season 3 of the Picard TV show.
What is that? That's Star Trek, isn't it?
It's Star Trek, yes.
Man, Star Trek's just too nerdy for me, man.
But since we were on the topic of Starfield, which we had breaking news of an off-screen photo of Starfield, a cinematic trailer that was then revealed to just be a fake by Midjourney AI, because you can't tell anymore with art, because it could just be done by an AI. I have to ask you, and hopefully my Starfield marchers are in chat. Pong So, where are you at? Man, fun speculation. You here, buddy? Where my Starfield marchers at? It was funny because I was listening to PM and the PM yesterday over on Fun Speculations channel. Mav and Pong there, and and Mav went on this impassioned rant about how they're just having fun with the whole Starfield being in March thing, right? Basically one on is like, they're just having fun, and there's just people that call them clowns or whatever. And, Pong Soul is just out here being like, he's the leader of the March Cabal, right? And I just wanted to ask them, how was the Starfield Super Bowl commercial? Huh?
Yeah.
How was that Starfield Super Bowl commercial on Sunday, guys?
Yeah, where is that?
We do have a question here from Tom I wanted to ask, because this probably more applies to you, and then we'll get back to the Starfield discussion. Tom wants to know, hey, but are you looking forward to the Activision acquisition because it broadens the games you can talk about? Would you be covering Call of Duty seasons and that type of thing?
We already cover Call of Duty seasons. Like, we literally had a dedicated writer dedicated to Call of Duty, but then I got budget cuts, So we cover whatever games we like at the end of the day. But we're a small team, man. Windows Central is so small compared to some of the big sites out there. We are really punching above our weight. I think we've got like 8 full-time writers, which is tiny. And we've got almost no freelance budget anymore. And we're just really, really punching above our weight. So that's the only reason we haven't covered Call of Duty more, is because literally I don't have budget for it. And I don't want people to write for free. But often people will write for free a lot of times, but it just feels wrong, So I'd rather go to my boss and say, we can cover these games, but you won't invest in us. Give me some money, and I'll cover Call of Duty. But I ain't playing Call of Duty because I'm not really good at it anymore, and I'm not really interested in playing it. Whenever I play Call of Duty now, I just feel so frustrated, and I just sit there thinking, man, I'm old now. I'm old, and it feels like no amount of practice makes me better at Call of Duty anymore. I think I'm just really super old. The only shooter I can still play is Overwatch, because I suppose it's easier. Like it's when it's team based, you know exactly where the enemies are coming from a lot of the time. So it's kind of like, you don't get shot in the back very much in Overwatch, generally speaking, unless it's a Sombra or something. But yeah, I mean, Rand, you don't really play, but you only play battle royales now for shooters, don't you, Rand?
Yeah, battle royale's my thing. But I mean, I think I've always played every COD, the single player. That's what I'm interested in.
See, that's so strange to me.
I know I am a strange person.
I never play. I
I'm
never
very
played COD
strange.
single player. I only ever played COD for multiplayer. I probably would. I probably would play Call of Duty more if it was on Xbox Game Pass. Because I don't really get codes for Call of Duty. I don't really want to pay for it myself because money. So if it was on Game Pass, I probably would try and play it more.
Well, yeah, I think I've talked about like the acquisition, and like the Bethesda acquisition was always better personally for me than the Activision one, because I play of all Bethesda's games. I've been a huge fan of all their studios and their content for the most part. So to me, that will always be personally way bigger. And yeah, it does broaden up the games and the studios that you can talk about for sure. The Activision one was just like, the Activision one is more like Xbox becoming bigger and doing more things, rather than being really excited for the games that'll come from them. Whereas like all the studios from Bethesda, outside of maybe ESO or outside of ZeniMax Online, I'm really interested in whatever they're doing. From Arcane to id to Tango to Bethesda Game Studios. Like, I'm all super interested in every single one of them and the games they'll make. With Activision Blizzard acquisition, I don't care about King, but I understand why they want King, because Xbox needs a mobile presence. I'm not the biggest Blizzard fan, even though I do like me some Diablo. I didn't really care too much for Overwatch. So, like, Diablo's great. I'll play that. But I'm more interested in, like, their future games. And, like, yeah, it'd be nice not having to pay for Call of Duty. I guess I was more looking on the hopeful side, hearing Phil talk about, like, StarCraft and Guitar Hero, and the idea of maybe, like, moving Call of Duty away from a yearly release schedule, and my mind being like, oh, well, what if Infinity Ward could make something other than Call of Duty all the time? Like, what if Treyarch and Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer could make another game alongside Call of Duty because they're given the time? Like, what if High Moon could actually go back to making games, because I used to really enjoy the Transformers games that they made during the 360 era. What if Raven could go back and make some really cool games, because I really enjoyed, the X-Men game or Wolverine game and Singularity. What if Toys for Bob actually does what they're really good at and could make a new Banjo or something along those lines? So I looked at the acquisition as more like way future stuff, like 6-7 years down the road, rather than like presently with Bethesda, which was like almost, it could have been instantly, but obviously they had the deals for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. But like finally we're in the situation where like, okay, everything coming here is basically going to be Xbox. Whereas like what I'm really looking forward to from Activision Blizzard, one, is more hopeful, and two, wouldn't happen for a long time, which I'd be perfectly fine with, because you have all the games from Xbox Game Studios plus all Bethesda. So that's like my hope for it. And yeah,
I think the thing about the acquisition is it solves a lot of problems that Xbox has with regards to culturally relevant IP. I kind of feel like, and this is going to upset Perfect Dark fans, right?
Okay.
I feel like if Imagine, just imagine. I'm sorry to all the Perfect Dark fans out there, but imagine that Microsoft already owned Activision Blizzard. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be a Perfect Dark shooter that the initiative would be making. It'd be a StarCraft shooter. It's a bigger franchise. It's got more global reach. It's got way more fans. It's not a sort of nostalgic memory for a subset of Xbox fans. I think that is really what I'm personally, like, joking aside, that's what I'm personally excited about with regards to the deal, is because, like Rand said, they've got a lot of IP that's dormant that could be tapped into. You could get Hexen back to id Software. Hexen is a dead franchise,
This
and
year
it's
Microsoft
but
has
it's
some
also amazing, and it's like that could be you id Software could bounce between Doom and Hexen or something else, and whatever. There's just so much cool stuff that could come out of it. And also there's the cloud gaming aspect. Diablo 4 on Xbox cloud gaming is going to be amazing. It really is. It's like the perfect game for cloud gaming. But yeah, and also I get StarCraft 3 out of it because Phil guaranteed me StarCraft 3 if they acquire Blizzard. He pretty much did, right? That's what I heard anyway. Yeah.
Anyways, back to Starfield. Hope everybody enjoyed. Where's Pong? I swear I've been looking through chat. I haven't seen Pong. Where's my boy Pong? Where's Mav? They're not showing up to Xbox 2 today like they always do. Pong, where you at?
Damn, maybe he's tired of you trolling him for the March thing, man.
He knows. Pong's a good guy, and he knows I'm just playing around because I've told him, the whole thing with Starfield was you have this like leaked thing, so everyone thinks it's coming soon. Here's what I do think about Starfield. I do think the developer direct is coming soon. I think there's a good chance it comes this month, but more than likely I think it's coming in March. I think March is when they're going to do the show, and like I said, I've been feeling good about June for a while. I said June's the earliest. I know there was a GOG update on the page where it said Starfield's coming June 29th or something. This is already after CD Key says it was coming March 23rd. The March thing, I think there's 0% chance that Starfield comes in March. But hey, if you guys want to believe it's coming in March, more power to you. I do think there's a good chance it comes in June. And that's just, I know we've talked about this before. You used to be heavily on the second half of the year, but you've more come back into more of the June time frame, have you not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really based on much. It's kind of based on, the rumors and whispers I'm hearing. I kind of feel like they've just got a big landing strip, and they're just sort of like they'll polish it up to the last possible minute, kind of, and the last possible minute is June. Because I think that they've just got a lot of game to polish. They'll probably be going, if they do release it in June, they'll be going on polishing it for like a million years to come. They're probably hoping like, okay, well, if we release it in June, people can experience the first 20 hours of the game that'll be relatively polished, and then we can sneakily fix the last 1,000 hours of the game while people are playing the first 20 hours. Kind of what they've done with Wild Hearts, right? They release Wild Hearts, and like the front-loaded part of the game is like, yeah, this is relatively polished. And then they were hoping no one would have noticed that the rest of the game was held together by duct tape. But I don't know. It's based on nothing hard, nothing concrete. If I ever do get concrete evidence of Starfield's launch date, it'll be up on Windows Central, singing and dancing, shining.
You know who's going to get it first?
Flying.
Who's going to beat you to that? It's either going to be Grub or it's either going to be Tom. I'm expecting to wake up one day and seeing a story from Insider Gaming about how Starfield is targeting some June timeframe for release.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Or even another one. Starfield is targeting an October release or something. Yeah,
maybe, baby.
But
don't count me out though, bro. I still got a bag of tricks.
Yeah, I mean, does your bag of tricks allow you to break NDAs though? Because Tom don't care about those.
Yeah, I won't have an NDA for that.
Oh.
Why would I have an NDA for that?
I don't know.
Dude, did you know Pinball Effects just launched on Xbox?
I did see the announcement. It's PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Yes, that was a 360
Holy
title.
shit! I'm installing that bad boy right now. See you guys. Pinball Effects is so sick. That game of the year has just landed, just randomly during the podcast. Was that announced? I did not know that was coming.
I don't think it was announced. Maybe it was. I did see the announcement yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know.
Last week we talked about the LinkedIn updates that both Fable and Compulsion Games had, right, Jez?
Yeah, LinkedIn updates.
Where like the Fable producer said that it's in playable state, and then Compulsion person said that basically it's in a playable alpha build or whatever. It was interesting because I believe Remedy announced that Alan Wake is playable, and that's supposed to come out this year. And I did see this story, I believe, also from Insider Gaming. Metro Exodus 2 on the way, potentially revealed this year, potentially releasing in 2024, and also playable. So I guess that's...
Tom just making things up.
Well, I mean, Metro Exodus 2 makes sense, right? I mean, it's been a while since Metro Exodus. When did Metro Exodus come out? 2018, 2019? I think it was... I forget one of those years. So it makes sense. Embracer bought them. But I just kind of wanted to tie it into the Fable and Compulsion thing, because here you have another two games that are at least reported to be in a playable state. One of them coming out this year. The other may be coming out next year, but revealed this year, Metro Exodus 2. Now, you take that back to Fable and Compulsion. Could we actually see Fable next year? Or Compulsion's game next year? Not mean like see, like the trailer, but I mean... release. You know what I'm saying?
Release.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, bro. I mean,
because remember, we had
so annoying. Like, why isn't Tom getting us leaks on this?
We had the Grubster on Xbox 2+1 a couple weeks ago, and we had talked
to Tom on and grill him.
Yeah, we should. We did talk to Jeff about the games Xbox was expecting to release in 2023 back in 2021. You remember?
Yes.
And then, like, one of them was Fable and Compulsion's game and all these other games. And obviously Fable's not coming this year. I mean, it was also like, it was basically a Hellblade 2, Avowed, Fable, Compulsions, In Exiles, Coalition's new game, and, well, Coalition's new game got canceled, but it was like basically all the games were coming in 2023, and clearly, obviously, plans change. So, I don't know, like, I sort of saw this, and I was like, okay, well, you have another two games in playable states, one's coming sooner than the other, one's coming next year. Maybe there is a chance for Fable to come out next year, end of next year, as like the big holiday game, right? Which would be exciting. And they've been working on the game for certainly a long time. But I sort of think Compulsion's game would come out first, or maybe they could come out at the same time. I don't know. I just wanted to bring this up again because of those two games that were mentioned as playable, and maybe we could tie it into the Fable thing. But speaking of Fable, and this story might have something to do with it, was Embracer said that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos are going to release 5 AAA games in the next 5 years. And people are wondering what those 5 games could be. I think for sure 2 of those 5 games are Xbox games, yes? Right?
I would imagine.
Crystal Dynamics, one of those 5 games has to be Perfect Dark. And Eidos, according to Jason Schreier's reporting, is helping on Fable. And that definitely is going to release in the next 5 years. Cross our fingers. Knock on the table, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you would think so.
Yeah, you would hope so, right?
Because I couldn't imagine them not being included. Because who else? 2 studios releasing 5 AAA games in the next 5 years? It seems most studios take the whole gen to release 1, right? The fact that they would release 5 of them in the next 5 years, so that would be 3 from Crystal Dynamics or 2 from Eidos or vice versa, that seems incredibly optimistic. So
isn't Crystal has 2 studios, right?
I even think they have 3, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly one's Perfect Dark. or one of them, if you want to go outside the Xbox ones, one of them has to be Tomb Raider, which is already announced, published by Amazon. We don't really know what. Do we know what Eidos is doing? Are they doing a Deus Ex game?
They've hinted at Deus Ex.
Okay, so let's assume one of them's Deus Ex. That's 2, and even if you include a Fable game and the Perfect Dark game, that's 4. Are they going to do, like, are they doing Legacy of Kain? Are they doing like a AAA remaster of Legacy of Kain, or like a?
They announced Tomb Raider already.
They did.
Well, I mean, they've got other studios too, right? Or were they specifically talking about Eidos and Crystal Dynamics here? Because they own the studio that makes Darksiders, right?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure they were specifically talking about those 2 studios. Because I think overall they mentioned how they are going to release, God, what was it, like 19 AAA games by 2026 or something? Or 20? Right. Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal are currently expected to release 5 AAA games by March 31st, 2028. He said he defined AAA games as titles that have over 100 full-time developers at the peak of their development phase. And they also must have notable or significant marketing budgets and are expected to sell at least 2 million units. And it says, and if development work is paid for by an external partner, Embracer must also have a notable economic upside. So obviously the Perfect Dark game.
There's a lot of spookiness around Embracer, because they reported a loss, didn't they? And then they were talking about how Saints Row $100 million
$100 million loss, or $100 million budget. They said Embracer plans to release 31 AAA games by March 31st, 2028. So in the next 5 years, they plan to release 31 AAA games. In addition to 5 from Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, 8 will come from Gearbox, 11 from Saber, 6 from PlayOn, and 1 from THQ Nordic. And 4 of those are expected to release during their next fiscal year ending March of 2024, with 7 to 8 released each year thereafter. 17 of those games are in full production, 9 are in pre-production, and 5 are in the concept phase. 24 will be published internally, 28 will be developed internally, 23 are based on owned IP, 24 are based on established IP, and 7 are based on new IP. But only 6 of the 31 projects have been announced. Okay, Jesus.
Man, I have very little faith in Embracer Group to deliver anything that'll make a splash. After that, that god-awful, what's it called? I can't remember, called Biomutant. That's like, I know some people really like that game, and there had some charm, but I actually thought it was the worst game I've ever played. Except 3D Sonic. Oh god, how many fan bases kind of piss off today? And funnily enough, speaking about 3D Sonic, Sega came out and said that Sonic Frontiers did really well, and they're gonna invest more heavily in a sequel. I don't know. That kind of makes me happy in a nostalgic way, even though I did say on a previous podcast that I think 3D Sonic should be banned via the Geneva Convention and allocated as a war crime. But it sounds like people liked it. Sonic does come kind of across like a sort of lower budget game. Do we have an analysis out there on why games are so expensive these days? Because Saints Row, I would have never expected Saints Row would have costed $100 million to make. I mean, maybe that just shows how out of touch I am. But does $100 million sound normal to you for that kind of game? I don't know.
Open world. I mean, yeah. I mean, they've been working on that game.
What is it?
I mean, but they've been
they've
been working on that game for a long time. Their last game was, God, I can't even think of their last game. It bombed so badly. Somebody in chat will know, but it was it's like I can see the title. It wasn't Agents of Mayhem. Chat, what was Volition's last game? I want to I played that game for like an hour and put it down because I was a big fan. I was a huge fan of the Saints Row franchise. Loved
I can't remember
1, 2, 3, 4. Didn't really like the one where Johnny Gat went to hell. Oh yeah, okay, I was right. Agents of Mayhem. Yeah, I think I said that, or maybe I didn't.
Agents of Mayhem.
Agents
of
Mayhem.
I don't think I even heard of that game.
Yeah, well, nobody did because nobody played it. It was definitely a bomb. I want to say that came out in 2017. So they'd essentially been working on Saints Row, the reboot. I mean, ever since so 2017. You figure maybe they start working on their next game in 2018, and they didn't put it out until last year. I mean, you're talking about what, 4 years of development, open world, costs going up. I think they're located here in the States. I want to say they're located in Illinois, actually, by the University of Illinois. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked that it cost $100 million plus like whatever marketing expenses they had.
I'm shocked.
That doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Someone in the chat said that Control cost $30 million to make, and I increasingly I'm just like, well, isn't it a safer bet to make that kind of game? But then again, even didn't they even say Control didn't break even? I think. Man, it's just hard out there, man. Like,
well, yeah, when you have games that take forever to make, the costs go up. So,
yeah, I suppose part of it is inefficiency, especially like if you're a Microsoft studio and you're sort of dealing with bureaucracy and stuff like that. I suppose that can frustrate the cost because I suppose the biggest cost is labor, right? So the longer it takes for your game to come out, the more your costs are going to spiral because you got to pay all your devs, I don't know. It's tough times, baby. I almost think like the video game. Some of these big publishers need to reset their ambitions. I don't think everything needs to be a big, massive open world with a million icons. I think, but like, do games like Dead Space make money these days? I just don't know. I don't know. I'd love to learn more about how Dead Space is doing for EA. I really would, But anyway,
it would be interesting.
Goat Reviews, yeah. Goat Reviews says Windows Central confirmed breaking news that Battleborn 2 is confirmed. Man, you know what? I actually quite like Battleborn. I think I was the only person on Earth who liked that game a little bit.
You probably were. You probably were because
it was.
I never seen a game. I never saw a game get buried so fast by another game.
Yeah, I mean, it sucked how hard Overwatch buried it, but the only thing that was holding back Battleborn was 30 frames, man. If it was 60 frames per second, I probably wouldn't have bounced off it as quickly as I did, but I really like that game, man. Just kind of sad.
Well, you know what? If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new, please. And let's talk about this Xbox Game Pass stuff, the controversy, the big sort of talking point this week, especially earlier in this week about Game Pass. What was the correct terminology that was used? Cannibalizes, right? Xbox Game Pass cannibalizes sales. Every website out there wrote something about it. A lot of people are writing opinion articles about it. And then you sort of combine that with, the news that PlayStation is selling fantastically, right? Selling really well. It's up 200% in Europe. Xbox is down a third, which isn't really where you want to be. I mean, the Switch is down 11% too, but I mean, that's going on year 7 now? Oh, no, year 6. So it's like, okay, year 6, you've already sold 110 million of those suckers. Okay, sales are down. You're also about to, probably release a new system next year. You've done enough. Like, good pig, right? Like, babe, good pig. You've done enough, Switch. Like, to see Xbox down a third isn't exactly where you want to be.
We're talking about pigs now.
I'm just saying the movie called Babe the Pig. Yeah, where he's like, that'll do, pig. That'll do. Right?
That'll do, pig.
That'll do,
not
pig.
Good pig.
Whatever.
I'm so confused. Does Babe get turned into bacon at the end?
I don't know. But it's like, oh yeah, okay, I understand why Switch is going down. Xbox down to third isn't really good news, and especially in the Europe where it's not really selling the best to begin with, right? It hasn't really had the best, easiest of times in Europe. So Otaku says 122 million. I knew it was somewhere up there. They said 110 or whatever. But either way, like, it's understandable why Switch would start slowing down. So it's like you had that news about Xbox not selling well and PlayStation selling incredibly well because they have stock now. And it's like they even celebrated the fact they had stock with huge like TV commercials, right? Like live from PS5.
Oh, dude. Didn't you see the giant PlayStation?
Yeah, I saw the giant PlayStation, the giant Mjolnir, the giant axe or whatever. Like, so they're celebrating.
Marketing goes hard.
They do go pretty hard. Xbox goes hard on Twitter with memes and on TikTok. You know, they go different types of hard. But then so it's like you had that.
Is it an inferior type of hard?
So you have all that
Xbox
sort of
needs
stuff.
Some Viagra.
You have all that sort of stuff, and then Xbox's best feature, most would argue, is Game Pass, which is something that have been talked about a lot by a lot of people. But because of the whole ABK deal, the CMA got some information directly from Microsoft, where Microsoft's own internal documents were saying that it cannibalizes sales. But there's a whole lot of context that's missing from this, and you wrote an article about it, Jez. So give us the lowdown about all this stuff.
Give us the lowdown.
Give us the lowdown.
So basically, in essence, there was this like whole drama about this comments that were sort of in the CMA report, which I haven't read in its entirety, but I was thinking, like, can I read all of this stuff? Am I really that attentive? I did try. I tried so hard, Rand, but I'm gonna try and read it again the weekend, I think. But it's very dry, and it's also written in very strange language. It's almost like the person writing it intentionally didn't want the context to be understood correctly. But basically, it says in the CMA documents that I'm trying to just pull it up here so I can quote it verbatim. Microsoft submitted in its internal analysis that it showed a redacted % decline in base sales 12 months following their addition on Xbox Game Pass. Microsoft internal documents recognized that adding titles to Game Pass would lead to cannibalization of buy-to-play sales as opposed to free-to-play games. It continues, with buy-to-play referring to buy-to-play games, blah, 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 blah. So that's basically the line that was sort of cherry-picked for some of the headlines. There are some outlets that very clearly do not want this deal to pass.
Oh, clearly, like, 100%. They are very much do not want it to go.
Yeah, they're very against it. So it's hard to, when you've got a redacted % decline, it's hard to really extrapolate true context from that. Because the reason this spun out into a whole ordeal was because Phil Spencer had previously made a comment in GameIndustry.biz, and GameIndustry.biz was also the website that was reporting on this comment from the CMA with redacted percentages, whatever. And they sort of presented it like a gotcha moment. They were like, "Ha, Phil, you lied. You contradicted yourself."
Yeah. People were going hard at Phil on Twitter, hard, really, really hard, saying, "You're a liar. How could you keep on lying?" Oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, but if you actually read the exact comment that Phil shared with GameIndustry.biz, it was, when you put a game like Forza Horizon 4 on Game Pass, you instantly have more players on the game, which is actually leading to more sales of the game. And this was back in 2018, right? So the way Phil presents that comment, he specifically says a game like Forza Horizon 4, which is a service multiplayer game, first of all. And then he's saying it's actually leading to more sales of the game. He's specifically talking about that specific scenario. He's not saying pervasively across the board, every single game that we put in Xbox Game Pass is leading to increased sales. Because I'm pretty sure they've never said that. They've never come out and said that.
They've only ever really said that people that are subscribed to Game Pass spend more money on games.
Yeah, they've said that too. People who, you know, offset they save money through Game Pass, but they still continue spending.
And that they've seen. I think they've even said something like when a title, a previous instance of a franchise was in Game Pass for a bit, they've seen pre-orders for like the next installment of that franchise increase or whatever, stuff like that.
And they always say we've seen, and you know, leading stuff like that. It's the language they use is specifically to sort of, you know, suggest that it's not every game. And certainly in conversations I've had with Xbox peeps, it certainly seems like the number one metric which drives sales and engagement is quality. It's always quality. It always comes back to quality. If a game, they measure against Metacritic, you know, and you know, for everyone who says stuff like game reviews don't matter, blah 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 blah, it's still the metric by which you seem to find correlation between game sales, and this is an engagement on Xbox Game Pass. If they put a game on Xbox Game Pass and it gets 6 out of 10, no, it's probably not going to get more sales, and it probably will have its sales cannibalized more aggressively because people will play on Game Pass and they just won't buy it. They won't share it and stuff like that. So there's nothing there that Phil said was a lie. You know, the Geeky Nerd said it's not lying but misleading. It's not really misleading, is it? If he's saying games like Forza Horizon 4 we've seen leading to more sales, you know. And even still, like, that was back in the day, back in 2018, when user behavior was very different to what it will be now, evolving over time.
Doesn't matter.
Like, people...
Doesn't matter. He said it once. Yeah. He said it one time in 2018. That implies for every single year going to the future. So if he says it then it applies to 2033. Doesn't matter. because as we know, things never change. Things always stay constant, right? What was true in 2018 can't be false in 2023.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's dumb because there's recent examples of games blowing up in Game Pass that also blow up on Twitch, that also blow up on Steam, and that's Hi-Fi Rush. Like, you could literally just not buy Hi-Fi Rush, but Hi-Fi Rush charted on Steam and other platforms, you know, where comparably, so another game, Forspoken, didn't, you know. Forspoken wasn't included in a service like Xbox Game Pass, but it also didn't do particularly great on Metacritic, you know. So it's just a whole load of nothing again, really. It's just more sort of FUD about the Xbox Game Pass model, which makes some corners of the internet nervous.
Well, it makes a lot of people nervous.
Yeah, it does. You know, if you are a game journalist or a games writer, and you know, people can just try a game for themselves without having to read a review, you kind of aren't needed anymore. You know. Like, I've been railing against Bing ChatGPT recently because Bing, you know, can write guides more quickly than a human can, you know. But I've got that bias because I don't want Bing to put me out of a job, you know. So there's like, you've got to think like, what is the writer's potential bias here for being so anti-Game Pass? And it could be that, you know, Game Pass allows consumers to access content more easily without having to first go through a content creator, whether it's a YouTuber, whether it's a website or a journalist or a newspaper or whatever. There's sort of like this direct-to-consumer approach that Xbox Game Pass represents is something that makes a lot of people nervous. But then you get people like the developers of Descenders. I can't remember the chap's name.
Mike Rose.
Mike Rose, yeah. He always comes out really strongly in defense of Xbox Game Pass, because he's like, you know, the model works and it works really well for us.
This is what he said. Flow. Right. I'll just read what he said. He said, every time Game Pass is in the news, my Descenders search fills with mentions as people on both sides try to explain why Descenders is proof of their own claim about Game Pass. And every single time, oh boy, do I learn that gamers do not understand how video games work at all. All I can say is we're aiming to get every single title we publish from now on onto Game Pass. In doing so, we'll secure success for each title and relieve immense pressure for the devs. But please, gamers, continue to explain why it's bad for us. So
yeah, it's the only thing that, you know, the only times that Xbox Game Pass doesn't work is when, you know, the game isn't super good. And if it's not going to work on Game Pass is not going to be a silver bullet for any bad game or any mediocre game. You know, there's some games in Game Pass that aren't epic bangers, but they've always got like, there's always like there's a specific level of curation that Xbox looks for when it's curating Xbox Game Pass. It's not like an all-you-can-eat service like Spotify, where literally anyone can put a song onto Spotify. Even I've done it. You know, and you know, even our podcast is on Spotify. Anyone can put content on Spotify, and that's why you've got this like horrible situation in the music industry where there's just no curation, and like nobody can sort of cut through the sort of the vast sort of, you know, content library that's out there. You know, you have to rely on algorithms and all that kind of stuff. But I think Xbox has been very careful to curate Xbox Game Pass in such a way that every game that goes into that service has the best possible chance of having the spotlight to itself, at least for a little while, right? So, you know, every month or every few weeks, there's a game that hits Game Pass that has a spotlight all to itself. Next week, it'll be Atomic Heart. Last week, it was something else. Week before, it was something else. You know, we had Monster Hunter Rise for a week. We had Hi-Fi Rush for a week. You know, we're going to have Wolong, Fallen Dynasty in a couple of weeks.
Dynasty?
You know. Dynasty.
Dynasty?
Dynasty.
Either way.
Isn't it Dynasty?
I don't know. That's Dynasty to me, but you say it how you weird Brits say words.
I'm going to say Dynasty. That's Rand.
Now there's a lot of games coming to Game Pass, and look, I think the idea here is like Phil says something, right? And I understand there are people that like Phil, and there are people that don't like Phil.
I like Phil.
Whatever, here or there, but there's always, you know, the words you have to what he says, and it's like, okay, some people really stick so close to what he says. Some people still give him shit for the stuff he said about VR in 2016. Oh, how about Scorpio is going to have high fidelity VR? And obviously VR never materialized. So a lot of people are on the train about CEOs in general lying, or that Phil lies. Phil lies all the time, right, about stuff. And they take this quote from 2018 from Phil about how, like, oh yeah, we have a lot of people playing Forza Horizon, and those people see on their friends list, see Forza Horizon, they're playing it, and then they buy it. So we actually see more people buying Forza Horizon than they would, because he talked about State of Decay winning NPD or doing really well in NPD, and they're like, well, how's that possible? How is that possible that State of Decay 2 is doing so well in NPD when you can get it for free in Game Pass? And he's like, well, you know, it's a virality effect. People see what their friends are playing, co-op. Other people don't want to subscribe, so they buy. Right? So really the difference between something like Netflix and Spotify, where it's like you can purchase it if you want. It also has like DLC and microtransactions to make all that money, right? So then there's the other people who say, well, Game Pass can't be good for the industry. Game Pass can't be good for the developers. You have to buy all these games. Even though Xbox is essentially paying the developers to put their games on Game Pass, like, Xbox can't just put anybody's games on Game Pass, right? Like, there has to be an agreement. You'd have to agree to it. Whether or not it's a full, hey, we will pay you X amount of money, and then have maybe performance-based clauses, like if you reach X amount of downloads, we'll give you this much more. If you have X amount of playtime, we'll give you this much more. Whatever they sort of agree to, you know. And for some devs, it works. Like for Mike Rose and Descenders, he's like, this works for us. It takes the pressure off. We get paid. We don't have to worry about it. I want all my games on Game Pass. And, you know, maybe it doesn't work for other devs. Maybe they tried it in Game Pass. It didn't work because for whatever reason, nobody really tried out their game, and or whatever. I mean, because clearly not every game that's going to go in Game Pass is going to be a success. That's just true of any subscription service. Not every show released by Netflix or HBO is going to be a banger. Stuff gets canceled all the time. It's just the way it is. People have limited time. There's and there's so many games to play. Not every one of them is going to be experienced, even if you give them to a user base of 30 million to try out for free. Some people just aren't interested in that. Like, I'm not interested in Monster Hunter Rise. I'm never going to play it, right? Just because it's there doesn't mean people are going to play it. So you essentially have the situation where Phil said one thing in 2018, and here we are in 2023. Well, maybe more 2022 when the CMA stuff collected their documents. And, the CMA is like, oh, well, even according to Microsoft, it cannibalizes sales after 12 months, right? But it's like, yeah, but sales usually drop off after 12 months anyways. So they use the headlines, because headlines are important because people only read the headlines. Xbox cannibalizes game sales. And that's in direct sort of, that's basically the opposite of what Phil said in 2018, which is something people always bring up. So they're like, wait a minute, Microsoft's admitting that it's cannibalizing game sales. But Phil said this. Phil's lying, right? Because Microsoft's got to be truthful. They got to give the truth to CMA. And it's like, sure, okay. But what is true in 2018 may not be true in 2022. You got to think about the time when that stuff was going on in 2018. Game Pass had been around for only a year. Microsoft had just finally put their own games into the service, like Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2, right? So the service was completely brand new. Microsoft, just that year, had only introduced their own first-party games, because 2017, if you remember what Game Pass looked like in 2017, there really wasn't any new games, and half of Game Pass's library was 360 titles because they had to fill it out. So people look at Game Pass now and they're like, it has 30 million users, or roughly the last update I think we had was 25 million when they announced the Activision acquisition back in January of last year, right? It was like 25 million or something. Who knows what it's at right now, but every single quarter they say Game Pass is growing. They don't really say how much Game Pass is growing by or what percentage, just that it's growing. So it could be at 30 million by now, could be at 35 million, but hell, it could be at 26 million. We don't know. I mean, maybe it's only been growing by 200,000 people every quarter for the past year, and so it hasn't gone up that much. My point is, we don't know what it's at now. But people are like, well, Game Pass is at this number now, and Phil said this 4 years ago, so what he said back then has to be true now, which isn't the case. There are things that were true in the past that aren't necessarily true now, because Game Pass has changed over the course of time. You had maybe 5 million subscribers when State of Decay 3 came out. So not many people signed up to the service because there wasn't really a lot of must-have games to sign up for. It was just old content. It was just backlog content. So in that situation, you don't have that many people signed up for it. Yeah, more people might tend to buy it because the service really isn't appealing, and it wasn't really appealing back then. Whereas like now the service is way more appealing because they have day one titles from indies to like some, bigger AAA-esque games like Wolong and like Atomic Heart and, Redfall and all these sort of things, where it's like, yeah, I can imagine now a scenario where you got 30 million people versus 5 million, where, yeah, it may cannibalize sales. It's, you're not always going to have a situation like High on Life, which just kind of was this breakout star where everybody was talking about it and playing it. And because everybody was talking about and playing it, more people bought it on PC and bought it on Xbox. Or even like the case of Hi-Fi Rush, where the virality of everybody experiencing and telling you how amazing it was led to increased sales on the PC side of things. Even though it didn't chart in January's MPDs, and Forspoken did. Because it's like, yeah, because I would imagine most people on Xbox didn't buy Hi-Fi Rush. So why would it chart in NPD's system? Because more people
doesn't cover Steam too, right?
Well, I don't think they do. Yeah. But why would people buy Hi-Fi Rush when it's free on Game Pass and it's a drop? When most people in the Xbox ecosystem now have Game Pass, where most people did not have Game Pass in 2018. So what Phil was saying is 100% the truth in 2018, but not necessarily the truth as of right now. And people really hold him to that. People like, hey, you lied about this. But even when Xbox talks about certain things about NPD, they talk about how people on Game Pass that are subscribed just spend more money on games, and they spend more time playing games, and all these sort of things that are good metrics to maybe present to your partners about, hey, like, these people, they're more interested in spending money on your stuff. If you have a game with microtransactions or co-op, you can really have a chance of making some money here. And even when cutting some of these deals, we know that, like, they are basically like, okay, well, we think we'll lose X amount of sales by putting it in Game Pass, so you need to basically pay us for those lost sales and then a premium on top of it, right? So, yeah, like, they're getting a payment for essentially the lost sales that they would have had on Game Pass, plus whatever premium they can essentially negotiate with Xbox. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sort of feel like this is all just kind of blown way out of proportion, mainly because it's just a lot of people who just they just want to say, Xbox is doing bad, because one, this would prove that the thing that most people talk about at Xbox is a horrible thing, and that you should support developers, right? Because cannibalizing sales isn't good. And that here's another example of Phil lying to the people, because he lies to you all the time. He lies to you about Game Pass, so of course he's lying to you about the games, right? And it's just another thing of how Xbox is just shit, right? It's just garbage. Look how Xbox isn't selling and how PlayStation is. Look how, Hi-Fi Rush didn't even chart because Xbox players don't buy games. But at the same time, we can't allow Xbox to get Activision Blizzard because it'll end up in a monopoly. I don't understand how people can have those two thoughts in their head about Xbox is currently dying and is currently so awful and just basically needs to exit the industry because it offers nothing of value to anybody. And then the Xbox also say, well, they shouldn't be allowed to get Activision Blizzard because then they'll have a monopoly in the entire gaming space. This is how some people actually argue, by the way. Which,
I know, yeah.
It's absurd, because then you see it written by some of these outlets who clearly have an agenda about the deal not going through, and they're right. Like, even One Bad Mother says, I just wonder why customers should even care. If they're getting more options, that should be better. But you see, it should only be the options that their current love platform gives them. So remember, subscription services are awful until your favorite company started doing them. And, putting your games... It's funny because I see a lot of people talking very highly about this month's release of games that are in PlayStation Plus, because they added Hi-Fi Rush. They added Horizon Forbidden West. They added, like, The Quarry. They added Borderlands 3. So Horizon Forbidden West gets added a year later, and suddenly everybody's talking about how PlayStation Plus is kicking the shit out of Game Pass, and it's better because, PlayStation finally decided to put one of their bigger games into the service a year later. But it's like, wait a minute, you just talked about how you don't like you don't like sub-services, but now sub-services are okay because for whatever X, Y, and Z reason, make it make sense. The like, people capping for the best way and only way to experience something is by paying full price is like the most insane garbage thing I've ever heard. Like, you might as well just be positioning your face into whatever corporation's ass and just kissing it constantly, or like licking. It's whatever happened to getting the best deal. Whatever happened to, waiting for sales, or just getting one over on a company and getting great. What?
I'll play devil's advocate, right?
Okay, play devil's advocate.
to play devil's advocate, right? Even though everyone who's talking about this, they're just spreading FUD and
Sure.
they're just they're doing it in a bad faith. Like let's imagine they're not for a second and just play devil's advocate in a hypothetical context before everyone gets super mad at me. The Sony model of $70, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much everyone else's model is $70. No one else does Xbox Game Pass with the day one stuff. You got EA doing it sort of like after the 12 months thing, which is when sales will drop off anyway. You've only got Microsoft doing the sort of the Xbox Game Pass thing. Now, you could argue that Microsoft's the company that has struggled with the perception of consistent quality, you know. So it's easy to link the two things together if you are so inclined to do so. If you're so inclined to do so, you can say, well, Microsoft doesn't have such a high incentive to release quality titles because they're not going to get the $70 sales out of it or whatever. They're only getting this trickle of money from Xbox Game Pass. And a part of that, and again, this is hypothetical, playing devil's advocate here, but I think part of that is like Microsoft isn't transparent about even internally. I don't think Microsoft's really transparent about how Xbox Game Pass makes money, because we know it's a subscription, right? But from me speaking to Xbox staff sort of at events like Gamescom and E3 in the past, sort of frankly and off the record kind of thing, just sort of just talking about it off the cuff, like it's sort of one of the things that has been implied to me is that like you said earlier, that Xbox Game Pass is like it's Xbox's strongest exclusive right now. So if it brings people into the ecosystem, like does it not count that like the fact that maybe someone came into the ecosystem for Xbox Game Pass, but then they go off and buy, Hogwarts Legacy, which isn't in Xbox Game Pass. So can you attribute the sale of a Hogwarts Legacy that was purchased as a result of a new to Xbox user, because Microsoft tracks that as a metric, new to Xbox. That's a metric they track. If someone was a new to Xbox user as a result of coming in from the Xbox Game Pass, the value that's being offered, and then they go off and start using the ecosystem more actively, do those sales not count towards Xbox Game Pass being worth it in a sort of revenue mindset, So it's an interesting discussion, and I don't think it will go away until Microsoft does start releasing consistently high quality games. And the reason for that is not Game Pass's fault. It's not Game Pass's fault because Microsoft hasn't been able to do this for a hell of a long time. We've had like some shining examples of the fact that Microsoft can deliver. Sea of Thieves is an example that Microsoft can do a live service well, as opposed to Halo Infinite, which is an example of them not being able to do one well. We've seen Microsoft be able to release games that are surprisingly great and polished, like Hi-Fi Rush.
They had nothing to do with that. That was all Bethesda. Remember?
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Age of Empires 4 then. Or well, was that Relic? I don't know. It was
Relic. Nothing to do with that.
Yeah, Relic. Yeah, I don't know. But you got Age of Empires and whatever else, Flight Simulator. They're proven that, and Forza. They're proven that can deliver culturally relevant experiences that engage millions of people. They've shown that they can do this, but the parts that they struggle on are potentially the more creative games that require a collaboration between the story team, sandbox team, and sort of marrying those different sort of developmental disciplines into one product is something they seem to really struggle with. And I don't think that's Game Pass's fault. I think that's a Microsoft corporatism fault. I think this issue where you have this friction between teams is a result of Microsoft's policy. It's not because of Game Pass. And that's just my hunch, But we won't see this narrative go away until Microsoft does start to deliver quality on a consistent basis. And I think ultimately that's a good thing that Bethesda is a limited integration company, because that means they won't be screwed up by the Microsoft corporatism, which I genuinely believe 343 is a victim of Microsoft's corporate culture. I genuinely believe that, you know. And that's why it's kind of a good thing that studios like In Exile, for example, are really far away from Redmond, you know. All the studios that are near to Redmond seem to have issues, you know. And again, this is a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory here. But I just think Microsoft as a corporation, as a culture, is not good for developing any product. Any product. Because all the products that come out of Redmond have issues. All of them, you know. And the best products that come out of Xbox, except the console itself, you know, have these kind of issues that you could say are the result of bad management, you know, the bad culture, you know. So I don't know. It's the narrative won't go away until they fix it. Maybe Microsoft really needs to have a look at the way they conduct business in their first party and the way they treat people and the culture at Microsoft, because it seems like they can only execute games that don't have that only have like a single sort of focus behind them, kind of. I think when it comes to these sort of multidiscipline kind of games where you need a story and multiplayer and all these other things, they always release in this sort of disjointed way. And I think Halo Infinite's a perfect example of that, which is why it's a good thing Bethesda's separate, you know. But yeah, I suppose we'll have to wait and see. But I think, like I wrote in my article, it's way too early to count out Xbox Game Pass as an entity. Well,
I don't know.
Early.
I mean, you had DFH Intelligence saying that Xbox Game Pass is not a long-term viable solution.
Who said that?
One of the video game analysts. Like, you know how
I wonder what they'd say about Spotify.
I don't know, but they said that Nintendo Online essentially was better to a certain degree.
I mean, maybe there is a future where Microsoft's like, you know, maybe we start treating the Game Pass like a vault.
There's no you can't put this. You open Pandora's box. There's no closing it. There's no putting everything back in. I could see them changing tiers of Game Pass, right? Like to maybe like push Game Pass day one games into a higher tier, and have like lower tiers be just the library. I could see that being the solution, but you're never going to be like, oh, by the way, Game Pass, we're not putting any of our games on Game Pass day one. You're gonna have to wait 6 months or a year, like it seems that PlayStation is sort of doing, like with Horizon Forbidden West coming to PlayStation Plus or Premium or whatever it's called a year later. Granted, they also have DLC that they're trying to sell, which is for the Burning Shore that's coming out in April. So they probably want like, okay, well, we'll put it on our subscription. We'll get some people to subscribe, you know, to the service. And it's like, oh, it's here, so buy the DLC that's going to be there too. I don't think Xbox can do that. I think they're in this situation where it's like, you open Pandora's box. Now this is what you got to work with. You can't put everything back in and be like, nope, no more day one games, or at least no more day one games from us, because that will not fly. That will look like they aren't 100% in anymore. That Game Pass was essentially an experiment that failed, because why else would you be going back on it, right? So there's things they can do to change it. But a lot of the conversation this week surrounding the platform was extremely negative. I mean, even the Redfall stuff today, right? People just jumping headfirst into a thing was like, hey, it doesn't have a disc, you know, and this how awful it is, and just wanting to just be as negative as possible, because that's what sells. That's what sells on Twitter. That's what sells on YouTube, right? It's got to be that extreme negativity that gets clicks and views, right? And then like everything's like the ABK stuff has been sort of negative surrounding Xbox for a bit, you know, especially with the reveal of like what the CMA is talking about and how Xbox, or, you know, the FTC blocking it, but then the EC, like there was even a Reuters article today is like Microsoft is in a ditch effort to save the deal, is speaking to the European Commission on like Tuesday next week or whatever. But it's like the words they use, a ditch effort, even though would imply that like, oh, this is it, the deal's dead, they have to save. How are they going to save the deal? right? But it's more like, no, this is just one part of the process.
It's part of the process.
It's not a latch ditch effort. Like, words mean something, but nobody's going to click on an article that's like Xbox to talk to, the EC because of, just another step in the process. But they will click on something that says Xbox's last ditch effort. Just like,
I honestly expected more of Reuters.
I don't expect much from anybody. Just like how, you can write an article about, flying Jim Ryan taking his jet, potentially visiting Xbox because they're talking to Microsoft again, even though maybe they're just visiting Bungie because Bungie's in the area. Who really knows about that? And who really knows what's going on there? Like, is Sony basically feeling the heat now because they're like, well, wait a minute. Maybe the devil we know is better than the devil we don't. Because if this deal passes, or if Microsoft decides to divest COD, what if they divest COD and they give it to somebody, and then Microsoft gets a better deal from whoever they sell it to than we could get? Like, hypothetically, what if Microsoft's like, all right, you know what? Amazon, we're going to sell Call of Duty to you. You're making Call of Duty now. But as part of the sale, we get marketing rights for 10 years. And we also get the ability to put it in Game Pass for X amount of time, but you can't put it in PlayStation Plus. Like, what if the entity they sell it to would give preference to Microsoft over them? So Sony might be looking at it and be like, well, we don't want that. We can't have that. So maybe it's better to work with Microsoft to accept the deal where we know the terms we're getting, the possibility of putting on PlayStation Plus, at least like, hey, date, like content, all that stuff. Like, we could get there would be that fear that was like, all right, we can get a better deal with Microsoft because we know what they're offering versus a potential third party that could actually prefer Microsoft in this as part of the sale, right? So, okay, let's talk to them. Maybe the regulators are like, no, you need to make it seem like you're doing your due diligence. If not, we'll pass it. But the way it was sort of written up was Xbox fans turn to the skies to it's like Xbox fans. Granted, it doesn't look, it's not, like I said, it's not as an enticing headline as, say, mergers and acquisition expert tracks flight or whatever. But no, it's Xbox fans. Because those crazy Xbox fans out there, those crazy Xbox fans, game journalists, because they're always in your emails and your DMs, complaining about review scores or talking about why you don't like the brand, or what we're wink wink fellow game journalists, right? You know what we're talking about. These damn Xbox fans, they're so starved for games that they're looking on a computer software to check the flight of Sony's, like of their private jets to see where they're going. Like, I saw that and I was just like, dude, this is so fucking just.
I don't know what it is. Like, Xbox is the butt of every joke.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And their fans,
really is.
Their fans are butt of every joke. But it's interesting because we have one of the more successful podcasts out there. We definitely get way more live viewers than pretty much like any PlayStation podcast, I would say. And, so it's like, I don't know. Maybe we're just viewed as jokes in the larger industry, but I don't know. Like, the idea of like, Xbox fans as it's like a group of them instead of one singular person who is not an Xbox fan. And you're supposed to be like, is this really, number one, news, and two, but like, is it really that bad out there for clicks and traffic that we're just like, we're just doing that now? Like, I understand the Redfall thing because that was on Bethesda's help support and it was vague and it was their mistake. So people running with it, I get it because it's like it's not like whatever. It's like literally on their website, people run with it. Like, this is something completely different, which paints the user base in a completely negative way, a complete like clownish way, right? That is just, I mean, sure, there's Xbox fans that are complete clowns. I'm not saying there isn't, and I'm sure there are Xbox fans that have harassed journalists. Of course there are, but like, I think that's true of basically every fan base in existence. In this particular case, it almost seems derogatory in a way where it's like, oh, look at these dumbass Xbox fans. They don't have any games, and what they're doing now is they're praying this deal goes through, so they're watching the skies and seeing what Flying Ryan's doing. Like, I don't know. This felt a little bit different, a little bit. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just, it felt cruel to a certain extent, but I don't know. What Chad? What do you think about that? What do you think about that headline? I don't know. I saw that and I was just like, oh my lord.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really annoying, but kind of is what it is, and it's been going on since pretty much the Xbox One launch, you know. And this is what got me into journalism in the first place, was, you know, seeing Boogie 2988, I think his name is, seeing his video. He's like the sort of the blatantly fake outrage that was totally played up to ride the wave for clicks and all this stuff. I was just like, and also like, while sprinkling in misleading stuff, it was like misinformation as entertainment, you know.
Yeah.
Watching that whole thing blow up, and I was just like, I really want to offer an alternative to this bullshit. So that literally inspired me to get into the industry, you know. And seeing the way it's been going lately, it feels like it's gotten that bad again. And I think ultimately it's a case of, what have you done for us lately, Microsoft? You know,
which is funny, because they just literally had a developer direct, and they released a game, Hi-Fi Rush, that nobody expected to be that good, which it was. That it has critical acclaim, an 88 on Metacritic, most likely gonna be in a lot of people's game of the year. Just, you're talking about, what have you done for me lately? I mean, I don't know. Like, Xbox is, like, granted, I know we talk about 2022 being a shit year, and it was a shit year, but this year looks completely different. And then you just released a game that was incredible, and not even a week later, people are out here dooming and glooming. You know, I love me some dooming and glooming, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the fact that Series X's aren't exactly fully 100% in stock all the time, like PlayStation is concerning. Like, why are you still having stock problems? Like, I looked online. I looked on Walmart.com. I looked on Target.com. I looked on GameStop.com. I looked on BestBuy.com. I could not find the $500 Xbox Series X in stock at all. On Walmart, they were only really listing resellers that were selling the system and some stuff for $650, right? Best Buy and Amazon only really had the Forza edition, and that was $560. I was just kind of like, why is the Series X stock so bad? Like, what's going on here? And then, like, the Series S is still in stock. It's still the holiday edition or whatever. That's still on sale for $240, which almost seems at this point a permanent price drop, which says, like, man, did they not sell enough? Did they overship? Do people not want the Series S? So, I mean, there are some things you can sort of, like, I'm not saying doom and gloom, but, like, question being like, man, I don't think Xbox made the right choice by focusing strictly on the Series S. Does Xbox and Microsoft seem more focused on 2033 with the cloud, by putting all these Series X's in the cloud, than they are currently right now? You know, in a time where they should be getting the consoles in everybody's hands that wants it, so you can sell them Game Pass, so they have all these games. But it almost seems that they're more worried about what their cloud infrastructure is going to look like in 5 to 10 years from now than what's currently going on. Because, you know, momentum is, I think, is the thing, right? You look at what PlayStation did this past year with God of War releasing and being as good as it was and selling as many copies as it did, and PlayStation basically saying, like, oh, the stock problem's over, you can basically get them whenever, how sales are up for them but down for Xbox, and it's kind of just like, what's really going on here? Like, 2022 was just a mess. Why would you get an Xbox when all they had was Pentiment and Grounded, which was 2 years old? But then it's like, you don't even need an Xbox anyways. Like, that's the other thing I think people forget to realize is, like, you don't need an Xbox to play anything. All these games are on PC if you really want to. So there is that sort of, because people were complaining that Sony wasn't marketing Returnal on PC, and you would put out there, like, well, maybe Sony doesn't want really people to know that you can play some of these games without the need of a PS5. I think Returnal is not selling well on PC because, well, it didn't also sell well on PlayStation. Not at least to the levels that, you know, most PlayStation games do.
It's really hard.
but there are some like things that I look at Xbox and I do kind of like, well, that's a concern that I have that hopefully gets fixed. But it seems for a lot of people it's constant. Any sort of rumor or whatever just gets completely blown up. I mean, one of the things we talked about in a month or two ago was the thing about Fable. Oh, Fable's restarting development, completely starting over from scratch. New engine switch. And it wasn't even, of course, everyone's like, of course this is happening. Because Xbox sucks. Their games always have problems. So yeah, of course, nobody like batted an eye at that. It was just a Reddit, a 4chan rumor. It was just de facto accepted that, yep, Xbox blows and they suck. And they're a completely dying brand that nobody wants. And these negative things are just constantly happening, and like it makes the discussion around the console sort of the discourse completely unappealing to really talk about. And people ask me why I really haven't made any videos lately. It's been like a month, and one of my New Year's resolutions was to make more content, and I really want to. But honestly, like there isn't really anything I wanted to make videos about. Like, I'm totally over the ABK stuff. Sure, I can make a nice little video about Jim lying, flying all over the place, but it's like, there's no information with that. It's all just speculation. I just don't care at that point. I'm waiting for more like, hey, it's approved or it's blocked. And it's like, what else really is there? Like, we talked about the developer direct, and it's just like everything else surrounding the platform, it has this weird negative tinge to it that almost reminds me of 2013 to a certain degree, of how Xbox was treated back then. And it feels like the discourse surrounding the platform has backslid quite a lot. And
it's consistency. I think the only thing that can cut through that is more hi-fi rushes.
More hi-fi rushes, yes.
Like one hi-fi rush and one developer direct is not enough to really reassure or create an impression that Xbox has its shit together, And I think they just need to get to that place where they're consistently doing it, and we're not expecting a disappointment every other quarter. We're not expecting a Halo Infinite catastrophe every other quarter. We're not
Halo
expecting
catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, the live service and then the whole stuff with 343.
I mean, Halo Infinite was a abject failure, though. That is 100%
damaged.
Sure.
I think Halo Infinite's damaged the brand, and like Phil said it himself, if we don't get Halo right, we're not getting Xbox
but even
right.
that quote is how many years old at this point?
Yeah, but I think it's one quote that's still true.
I think it's
symbolic. It's symbolic.
It's symbolic, sure, but I think it's less. Halo has less of an impact on Xbox now than it did, I think, when he said it, though. Right? Especially in an era where you own Bethesda and you have Elder Scrolls and Fallout, when you have Minecraft that is literally way bigger than Halo ever could be, when you're about to maybe close a deal where you own Call of Duty, which is significantly great. But I get, like you're saying, it's a symbolic statement. Even I forget how long ago we even said that. We lose our way with Halo, we lose our way with Xbox. And like the thing is that they lost their way with Halo. So it's a relevant quote, but I don't think Halo is as important to Xbox now as it used to be when that quote was said. And that's not me damage controlling, because like I think Halo Infinite is an abject failure. I think 343 needed cleansing years ago. I don't understand how we ended up in this situation with 343 and Halo in the first place. That is definitely on Booty. That's definitely on the management of 343. That's definitely on Phil for allowing it to happen. Whether or not it was through action or inaction, whether he knew it was a problem or whether he was completely unaware. You're the quarterback. Like the quarterback gets all the praise when things go well, but he gets a lot of, his fair share of blame when it doesn't go well.
Dude, you've lost me. What does a quarterback do?
Yeah, whatever. Quarterback's a football terminology. The people.
Yeah, but what do they do?
I've
never known this. I've never
quarterback
known
in football.
So
Quarterback in the football, they get the ball and they decide what to do with it. They can hand it off to somebody and they'll run it, or they could throw it through the air to a wide receiver for a pass, or they can hold on to themselves and run it. And usually they're the highest paid player on the field because they're the most important. They're the ones who decide what happens with the ball. So when teams are doing very well, the quarterbacks get a lot of praise. Like, oh man, he's the most amazing out there. Everything he does is great. We're winning because of him. And when the teams are doing bad, it's usually because the quarterback's not performing up to what he should be performing. It's like, oh, we need a new quarterback, right? So, a lot of people, so it's like Phil gets a lot of credit for the things he's done for Xbox, even though he would tell you that it's all the teams. But there are definitely some people that don't want to put any blame on him whatsoever. And that, I think he deserves some of it because he's essentially the captain of the ship. He's the quarterback, in this scenario. I know maybe the correct analogy would be like he would be essentially be the GM, but I think it's like the GM really doesn't get the praise. It's the quarterback that gets the praise. General manager basically makes all personnel decisions. Right?
So Phil is Tom Brady.
No, Phil would be whoever is the Buccaneers GM. Either way, the point I was trying to make. The point
Are we talking about Pirates now?
It's just the name of a football team, Jez. Right. The point I was trying to make is that either through inaction or whatever, like you allow something to fester, and you should have gotten rid of it before, but you let it grow and you didn't intervene. That's still on you. That's still on you. That's still on Booty for allowing the premier IP to be in this situation where, like, what is the future of Halo? I don't know. Nobody knows. Halo Infinite is just a failure, and that's on you because of how big it once was, right? There are things that, there's definitely things that Phil's done great, and there's definitely things that, like anybody else, that like he definitely needs to be improved on. And I think you look at 343 in Halo, it's definitely something that is a black eye on his resume. And I don't even know. I've been rambling for a while. I don't even know what we were even really talking about. What was I talking about? I forget.
We're originally talking about the CMA and saying that Game Pass cannibalizes.
Oh yeah, but that was so long ago.
Yeah, it was like an hour ago.
I don't even remember what we even bring this all up.
Let
me look at some of these super chats. I've completely lost my train of thought. Canada wants to know, Jez, if ABK deal gets rejected, do you think there's a plan B? Didn't you write a whole article about this today?
Yes, I wrote a whole ass article about this. I mean, I'll summarize it briefly, but you can go and read the article on windowscentral.com and share it. That really helped me out a lot. I appreciate everyone who does share my articles. It helps me stay in a job, which I kind of need. But yeah, I wrote an article about that today. It's pinned on windowscentral.com. Basically, like exploring what they could do, and I came up with like a few possible scenarios. I mean, we've discussed them before, but it was basically like maybe they could invest in other studios, which is something that Tencent does to get influence over the direction of where some of those platforms go. As maybe they could drop a few million on Square Enix, investment, and be like, look, whatever we did to upset you, we're sorry. Here's a bunch of money. Please give us Final Fantasy VII Remake. And maybe they could grow their influence doing that. Maybe they could, buy smaller studios, which was the old strategy, instead of, running and gunning for the pie in the sky Activision Blizzard deal. Or maybe they could, go for Sony strategy where they just buy exclusivity stuff outright. They'll have to pay a premium for it, having a smaller platform. But, there wouldn't really be they wouldn't have a choice at that point. So it's kind of like exploring that, but I don't think they're not going to change their strategy. Speaking to people at Xbox, it was always like Activision Blizzard was about accelerating their strategy, about accelerating towards mobile, about accelerating the quality of what was being offered in Xbox Game Pass. They'll still be able to achieve that, just not as quickly as Activision Blizzard would allow. So there is no plan B. It just means the plan A gets a little slower, I guess.
Yeah, so read Jez's article if you want to learn more what he thinks is going to happen. We got one here from Raiden Blade. He says, look, Xbox fell behind in 2022 because they had nothing outside of third party, and Game Pass now is 23. They have to show up, especially marketing. He also says, I read and understand what the statement, first-party games are not really on sale. It's in the service, but this article is trying to paint a negative Game Pass. 2023, PS5 is 1 to 2 games. First games, Xbox has 4 to 6 maybe. Yeah, I mean, that may be true. We don't know what Sony's, release schedule is, although they are releasing PSVR 2, and that does have some exclusive games. They do have Final Fantasy 16. Spider-Man 2 seems to be the only first-party title coming this year, although I think there is that one game that was supposed to come to Xbox that they are publishing. I forget the name of it. It's like Stellar Blade or something. You know what I'm talking about, Jez? That was used. Anyways, Xbox and PlayStation are in different. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Planets?
Not different planets, but expectations for both are completely different, right? PlayStation can only put out a couple games, and people will be completely okay with it. Whereas Xbox can't put out a couple games because there's this whole mantra of Xbox has no games for so long that them finally putting out 4 to 6 games is like, oh, it's about time, right? It's about time. They're viewed differently, right? You can say that's a double standard if you want, and I guess it is true. Like, some people will be like, oh, remember, because we had that whole discussion about if Xbox only released Starfield, Redfall, Forza, Motorsport, and Hellblade 2 this year, would that be a good year? And there was a lot of people that said no, they needed more because Starfield, the Redfall, essentially don't count because they're delayed games. But those same people would say that Sony had a great 2022 because they had God of War and Horizon Forbidden West and Gran Turismo 7 and Last of Us 1 Remake. Even though 3 of those 4 games were delayed games from the year previous. It's like, well, how are you discounting those 2 Xbox games and saying they don't count, but then saying the PlayStation ones do? It's basically because PlayStation and Xbox, people view them completely differently from one another. PlayStation gets the benefit of doubt on a lot of stuff because they have a better track record of putting out quality, consistent content that Xbox is trying to reach up to. Especially when it comes to AAA stuff, even though a lot of the games that Xbox has put out this generation have actually been of really high quality. If you go through the Metacritic and look, like Psychonauts 2, Halo, for a lot of shit people give Halo now, it definitely launched extremely well. Forza Horizon 5, Flight Sim, Grounded is still is highly rated. Pentiment was highly rated. Hi-Fi Rush, extremely highly rated. Like, the era where Xbox was putting out 60 Metacritic stuff, yellow stinkers, what people would call the Xbox stench, that hasn't been a thing for a while now. But people like to think it's still a thing because it's an easy way to make fun of the brand and talk about Game Pass fodder. That these games that were critically lambasted are given away. They're given away on Game Pass because nobody would buy them otherwise because they're bad. Like, when I'm talking the Crackdown 3s, the Sea of Thieves when it first came out, right? Look how different just there from the Halo Infinite to the Sea of Thieves. Halo Infinite launched at like an 86 or an 87, which is a pretty high score. That's higher than a lot of PlayStation exclusives, but the PlayStation guys don't want to hear that, right? The PlayStation guys want to think to themselves that every PlayStation game is somehow a 90-plus game. And then Sea of Thieves launched at like a mid-60 or something. But look what happened to both. Sea of Thieves got better as it went, and I would imagine if people re-reviewed it now, it definitely wouldn't be in the 60s, probably somewhere in the 80s. One of the more unique games. And like, I bet you if people re-reviewed Halo now, it definitely wouldn't be the high 80s. It probably would be in the low 80s, if not the high 70s, right? The tale of 2 live service experiences. But like, the era of Microsoft being a joke game-wise for quality, I think is done and over with, because I think Redfall is going to be great despite the current controversy surrounding the game about the always online. I think Starfield's going to deliver. It may not deliver to the 94 meta that Skyrim had, but I think it's going to be incredibly good. And I think whenever like the Hellblades and the Vows and the Perfect Dark launches, they're all going to be really well received too. So I think the era of Xbox being the butt of a joke because they used to release crap, because they released it too early or whatever, I think those days are gone, and they've been gone for a while, even looking back from, the start of 2020. Is it that people just, they want to hold on to somebody that they can just freely make fun of and not get pushback on, which is what exactly happened to Xbox last generation, where it wasn't just gamers making fun of them, it was literally the media too. And somehow we've spun it back where it's this negative article after negative article about whether Game Pass or about the deal or about how Microsoft's not doing well and we can't let them have ABK because they'll just dominate the industry, which I can't believe people actually believe that, but people really do. It's just it's they're on the path to what? They're not even, they wouldn't even like pass up Sony, let monopoly. Are you sure you're using the wrong word here? Right? Like it's mind-boggling. All this sort of stuff. Like Nintendo doesn't get this sort of examination. Where are the articles about Nintendo in Saudi Arabia? Where are the Saudi Arabia just increased, the Saudi Arabia fund just increased their its stake in Nintendo to like 7%. Nobody's talking about that at all. But they talk about all these other issues that, or whatever. But nobody's talking about the blood money. Nobody's talking about, hey, we're buying Nintendo products, giving Nintendo money, and some of that money is going to literally go over to Saudi Arabia and fund whatever goes on in Saudi Arabia. But nobody mentions that whatsoever, right? And like nobody, even with Sony, some of the PlayStation VR 2 stuff, it's like, man, this is a great thing. It's a great thing. The only caveats is like, oh, maybe the games won't. It doesn't really have the games. It's not. PlayStation itself is never presented as like, well, the platform might be dying because one of the services it offers is not long-term sustainable, and it's hurting developers, and it needs to change, and Microsoft's the worst. Like, it doesn't have to deal with any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let's see what else we got here. We have Arigato Sir saying, hi guys, what do you think of Microsoft wanting to save the planet, but also selling a 70 box of empty plastic? Redfall should have been digital only. I mean, I'd be fine for digital only release. Deathloop was digital only on Xbox, and I'm definitely for the idea of like either you put the disc in there, or if you're not going to do that, then have it be digital. But we talked about that. There is a disc in the box, so it's not just empty plastic.
Yeah.
It's not just empty plastic, sir.
It's an interesting topic, but it's, I don't know, we'd have to go into green credits and all that kind of stuff. I do wonder, like, how much, plastic would actually, what contribution to carbon footprint the plastic game disc boxes are. But I don't think it contradicts Microsoft's mission, because Microsoft, they're buying a lot of green credits. But then again, green credits are controversial in of themselves, so.
Hey, did I see you just posted the Starfield official trailer on Twitter?
Yeah.
You gonna get in trouble for that?
Yeah, maybe, bro. Maybe,
oh my
bro.
God. Let's see here. Ricardo says, love the show. Hope you guys have a nice weekend. Rand, are you aware of the private talk Sony's having with Microsoft regarding the ABK deal? Yeah, we've talked about that. Who knows what's going on with that? Who knows if they're going to come to some arrangement? We'll just have to make sure we keep our eye on the the skies to see what Jim Ryan's doing. Leaky Hum says,
that's some X-Files shit.
It
Keep
is.
your eye on the skies, man.
Leaky Hum says, Arnie S., senior producer on Fable, saw your Fable article. I must be talking about you, Jez, or Brandon Lowry's article or something.
What did he say?
He says that Amy S., senior producer on Fable, saw your Fable article. So.
Oh, really?
That's what he says.
That's
P.O. Perryalt says, hey guys, you got info on Blizzard's survival game? Jez does. I think you've talked about that a little bit, but that was like last year, right?
Yeah, I saw a really early build of it. It looks really good. It's sort of fairy tale, kind of Overwatch visual style, fairy tale building stuff. It's sort of like kind of from what I could glean from because I saw it off screen. From what I could glean from it, it kind of looked like fairy tale Fallout 76, kind of. You know, people won't like the comparison to Fallout 76, maybe, but it's a very popular game. You know, you can build stuff, you can go hunting stuff, take down monsters, and all that kind of thing. From what I can tell, I've written it up before, I think, or I've talked about it here. But
Yeah.
from what I understand, its code name is either its code name is Odyssey, or its working title is Odyssey. I don't know a lot beyond that, and that was a long time ago that I saw that footage.